Chapter 1071. But why are there still more? Do you not need money to make Dharma artifacts? Xianglong opened his mouth wide and howled. He was about to cry. In that instant, boundless lightning erupted in a frenzy, and an extremely high temperature and extreme pressure surged forth. What was even more terrifying was that the countless falling missiles and metal fragments melted into a torrent of molten steel under the high temperature. It was equivalent to adding a medium and increasing the power by 10 times. Rumble. Xianglong was completely drowned by the torrent of molten steel, lightning, and flames. His fingers exploded, his chest exploded, his legs exploded, and his head exploded. It hurt so much. Xianglong howled like a pig being slaughtered. Essence Qi erupted, and he used all his strength to rush a kilometer away and enter the teleportation portal. At this moment, he was extremely miserable. His 4 limbs were severed, and only his muscles and meridians were left. He was almost like a human stick. Half of his head had been cut off, and his chest had exploded. Even his heart had been ruptured. Even if he had an invincible Vajra body and had secret recovery techniques, it would be difficult for him to recover in less than 10 years, let alone return to his peak state. I hate you to death. Despicable and shameless sneak attacks. Xianglong gritted his teeth. He sadly realized that his manhood was gone. He was so angry that his remaining eyeball was bloodshot. He was extremely resentful. This is not over. I will definitely come back. I'm going to tear you to shreds. I'm going to wipe out everyone on Earth. Just you wait. You will come back? Are you Grey Wolf? Tang Linglong appeared in the sky above the command center and said disdainfully, "Don't come back. Just stay here. Give him another shot." Inside the lightning teleportation gate, there was already another world. No attack could hurt him. However, Xianglong was still scared out of his wits. He hurriedly activated the teleportation portal and turned into a crooked golden light, flying toward West Earth. In the sky, endless lightning dissipated and molten steel scattered. The teleportation portal trembled for a while and suddenly disappeared. The battlefield returned to peace. All that was left were dilapidated walls, bullet holes, burn marks, lava flowing, and smoke billowing. If it weren't for the fact that they still existed, everyone would have thought that the world-shaking battle had never happened. The gods of West Earth have been repelled. We won? A soldier walked out from the bunker and said with a trembling voice. Everything that had just happened was too shocking. The deity from West Earth was too powerful. He faced the cannon fire head-on and moved with the wind. Every move he made seemed to have the power to destroy heaven and earth. We won. We have defeated the gods. A Wuxia general nodded slowly, his face glowing with pride like never before. Everyone present looked in the direction of the command center, where the experts of Tianqing School were, with great reverence in their eyes. They knew that from this day onwards, a great power of the present age would gradually rise, and a peerless great sect would be established. In the history of mankind, Tianqing School was the only existence that could defeat the gods of other dimensions. Heavy cannons strike 30,000 li, exterminate the experts of West Earth. Chao Shixiang's eyes were like torches. That's why he's so extraordinary. He has never been so narrow-minded as to strengthen himself. Instead, he has been igniting the flame of the cultivation civilization, spreading a higher level of civilization, and achieving rapid progress for mankind. There are no weak soldiers under his command. Even if he is not here, Tianqing School will not be at a disadvantage. Mankind on Earth will not be threatened at all. You're right, Elder Chao. Behind him, Yi Zhantian and many soldiers of the Wuxia Long formation nodded. Their eyes were full of reverence, and a strong sense of pride rose in their hearts. They straightened their backs and shared the glory. Although the Kuelian system was developed in Sidoni, at least half of the scientists in the Sidoni Academy of Sciences were directly involved in the development of the system. Many research institutions in Wuxia were directly involved in the development of the system. They were all from Wuxia. 40% of the patents even belonged to the research departments of Wuxia. More than 90% of Tianqing School students were martial artists from Wuxia. It could be said that the Kuelian system was rooted in the land of Wuxia and blossomed in Sidoni. Who said that Wuxia's scientific research ability was not strong? Who said that Wuxia did not have a sense of innovation? It could be said that Wuxia was growing crazily in another direction of the technology tree. Even the United States was suppressed. Alas, a real god-killing weapon. Killing gods is as easy as cutting grass. After this battle, Tianqing School will be famous all over the world, and Sidoni will also rise to the top of the world's superpower. Wuxia will benefit immensely. Keynes said with emotion. The general of the Pentagon, the head of the United States Earth Defense Force, as the highest-ranking witness in the secular world among the people present, set the final tone for this world-shaking war. At this moment, he had to admit defeat. Everyone's hearts were filled with sorrow. Just a few months ago, when Jiang Tian slaughtered the Holy See and the Brahmin, he pushed Tianqing School to the position of the world's top orthodoxy. However, in private, many organizations and people still had doubts about him. Some extreme believers of the Holy See and the Brahmin even regarded Jiang Tian and Tianqing School as the root of the disaster. They thought that it was them who attracted the revenge of the dimensional world and led the earth into a place of eternal damnation. They were also pessimists, and they firmly believed that the gods of the dimensional world were invincible. But now, Jiang Tian had used the lives of 3 powerhouses from West Earth to announce to the world that a truly invincible orthodoxy had appeared. Even if the powerhouses from the dimensional world and Jiang Tian were not present, some disciples and the artifacts left behind by Jiang Tian could kill them. The key was that Jiang Tian was not present. This already showed that Tianqing School already had the strength to stand alone and fight against the powerhouses from the dimensional world. Now, even the United States and the European Union did not dare to compete with Jiang Tian. After all, Tianqing School and Sidoni's Sky Troop were the main forces in this final battle. If the United States and the other major countries resisted the powerhouses from West Earth, even if they used nuclear weapons, they might not be able to kill them. From now on, even Wuxia's Kunlun and the mysterious Hongmeng had to be respectful to Jiang Tian and Tianqing School. As for those who had doubted Jiang Tian's elimination of the 2 great orthodoxies as the root of the disaster, those who surrendered and those who led the way, they were all slapped in the face and could no longer doubt. And in this battle, the invasive nature of the dimensional world was clear as day. They did not want to be pacifists at all, and they did not just want to kill Jiang Tian and Tianqing School. Instead, they were ambitious, cruel, and ruthless. They saw the human race on Earth as ants and wanted to occupy Earth, enslave, and kill all humans. Everyone could clearly see how tragic the ending of the Indian general was. And Tianqing School also proved to those pessimists. The so-called gods were just slightly stronger creatures. With the wisdom and courage of the human race on Earth, they could still be killed. Sidoni became stronger, and the one who benefited was naturally Wuxia. Because the roots of Jiang Tian and Tianqing School were in Wuxia. Salute to the world's strongest powerhouse, Tianqing School's suzerain Kong Teichu. Salute to Tianqing School. Salute to all the commanders and soldiers of the Sky Troop. When Yi Tianren, Tang Linglong, Zhang Chenjian, Sasaki Haisha, and the others walked out of the headquarters, they were immediately greeted with earth-shattering cheers. The applause was thunderous. Countless generals, soldiers, and powerhouses from the Dark World who came to watch the battle or provide assistance, the entire battlefield of 300,000 people, looked solemn and solemn. They saluted them one after another to show their highest respect. Yi Tianren looked around at the generals and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, please remember this. Whether it's Tianqing Heavenly Kingdom or the West Earth Dimension, they are not gods, but living beings. They are not indestructible. Today, we have successfully slaughtered the gods according to Master Kong Teichu's deployment. This is to prove to everyone that even if they are true gods, they are not that great. They can still be killed." As soon as these words came out, the whole place was dead silent. Everyone was shocked. That's right. Even if Kong Teichu was not here, his disciples could kill gods. Now, what could provoke Kong Teichu? It was the world's #1 orthodoxy, the #1 country. However, in the crowd, a trace of worry appeared on Chao Shixiang's face, and his brows gradually furrowed. This time, the 3 powerhouses from West Earth that Tianqing School had killed were all of high status in that world. Moreover, one of them had escaped and returned. Presumably, West Earth Dimension would also be furious and carry out an even crazier revenge. If they made more preparations, there would be an even larger number of powerhouses invading. So, I wonder how Jiang Tian is now. I hope that the heavens will help him and that he will return soon. Not only Chao Shixiang, but countless people present also had such hopes in their hearts. This blue planet was actually as small as a speck of dust in the vast universe. When one opened their eyes and looked at the sky, they would see the depth and terror of the universe. At this moment, Jiang Tian, just like the savior and the greatest trump card of this planet, no one could ignore his existence. Chapter 1072. The 3 invaders of West Earth had been destroyed. When the news spread, it swept across the world like a hurricane. Many media outlets carried out a series of reports and paid close attention to this matter. This time, it was different from the past. Originally, the various countries had strictly guarded the existence of the dimensional world and did not want the public to know about it. However, this time, after a close discussion between the higher-ups of the various countries, some news was released rhythmically. This was because, in the eyes of the various major countries, the real threat was the super powerhouses like Cultivate. They had super strong martial strength that was enough to shake the existing order. Once the ordinary people knew about it, it would overturn the foundation of governance. However, it was different now. Cultivate was no longer a threat to the various major countries, but an ally. It could even be said that he was a leader and a backer. Jiang Tian was connected to the fate of the entire human race on Earth, realizing a community of shared destiny. They depended on each other, shared interests, and shared a common fate. The concept of a community of shared destiny was proposed by Wuxia officials in 2011. It was now popular and highly recognized. At this moment, the biggest threat came from the dimensional world. They could even wipe out the human race on Earth and turn this world into ruins. At this time, the entire human race needed to be united and mobilize all the forces that could be mobilized. When they saw the news, the people were shocked. West Earth, as a mysterious and unknown dimensional world, had actually been invaded by a living powerhouse. This news was too shocking. Although the people did not know the specific situation, they were certain of one thing. The world's top orthodoxy, the Brahmin, was just a puppet supported by someone on Earth. The power and mystery of West Earth could be imagined. However, such a terrifying powerhouse that descended from such a terrifying world was actually killed by Cultivate's disciple. This was too shocking. When the authoritative media of various countries released the relevant videos, 6 billion people around the world sat in front of their televisions, holding their phones and watching carefully. Their hearts were in their mouths. Because this was the first time in history that humans on Earth were so close to an extraterrestrial civilization. In the end, some video clips were also released. Only then did the people realize that the invaders were so powerful, but the Tianqing School and the Earth's allied forces were even stronger. They had actually succeeded in killing the gods. The people kept mentioning a name, Cultivate. He was one of the most powerful people in the world. He had once suppressed the great powers of the world and annihilated the Holy See and Brahman. He had once slaughtered his way through the world and was unrivaled. He was Sidoni, the founder of Tianqing School. Only by raising human civilization to a new height with his own strength could he successfully stop the invasion of West Earth. It turned out that many of Jiang Tian's deeds were kept secret, but now, a lot of the information could be made public. This would be of great benefit to increasing the confidence of the humans on Earth. He is the founder of the Cultivation civilization, the true hero, the hero of all mankind. Knock down the Statue of Liberty and erect a bronze statue of Cultivate. Many Americans clamored like this. In fact, Keynes also thought so. During the State Affairs meeting, he worked very hard to push for this matter. If a war were to break out between West Earth and Earth, It would probably exceed the scale of World War II. This would be the greatest crisis in the history of mankind. And in a crisis, liberalism was useless. Only a high degree of centralization could win. Gentlemen, we have to understand that we have to change our thinking. We even have to change our way of life, social organization, and operation. The largest and cruelest war in history has arrived. We are facing an extraterrestrial civilization, a civilization that surpasses Earth's technology. At the Earth Defense Joint Conference, the Pentagon's representative, General Keynes, spoke passionately. At this time, we need to centralize power, have sufficient material resources, maintain confidence, and unify beliefs. I suggest that not only in the United States, but also all over the world, we should erect a bronze statue of Kong Techu. Let this fearless spiritual fire spread all over the world. The 5 permanent members all expressed no objection. However, Sidoni rejected it. This matter could only be decided after the sect master returned. Buy the Coelian system now. Is it too late? The Prime Minister of Japan pleaded with Sidoni and Wuxia in a pitiful tone. A Prime Minister of Russia also looked nervously at Zhang Qinzhen and the others. When the Coelian test fired, many big countries expressed that they wanted to buy it. However, the upper echelon's power operations and games were very complicated. In the end, Japan and Russia did not really buy it. This was because at that time, Japan had already reorganized the cabinet to get rid of the control of Jiang Tian's divine sense. The new cabinet was abnormally afraid and rejected Kong Techu. They even thought that Jiang Tian's words about the impending invasion of alien civilizations were nonsense. They wanted to take advantage of the situation and start a non-existent arms race to make a fortune. The Russian intelligence agencies were more complicated, and they had already been in contact with the wolf ancestor and the kindred. They did not deny the existence of special creatures or even alien civilizations. However, the Russian upper echelons believed that they should independently develop a super-nuclear bomb and get rid of the control of Sidoni and Wuxia to achieve a great victory in the arms race. They could even crush Wuxia, Sidoni, and the United States, who were equipped with this weapon defense system. However, they did not expect that before the development of a super-nuclear bomb, West Earth was already close at hand. Moreover, many data about the strong people of West Earth had been released. According to the current design standards, the nuclear bomb they developed could not effectively kill these strong people. Moreover, these 3 invaders were not the top strong people. If more and stronger people of West Earth invaded, they would not be able to resist. Zhang Qinzhen was not good with words. At this time, Qin Yang, the president of Sidoni, smiled sinisterly. He thought to himself, I told you to buy it, but you didn't buy it. Now, I'm going to raise the price. Making money was one thing, but more importantly, Sony had to control the Coelian. After learning about Jiang Tian's deeds, many forums about superpowered people and cultivators were established. Many people thought that Kong Techu was like Superman in comics and movies and should come from a planet with a high civilization. In this regard, Sidoni and Tianqing School kept it a secret. After learning that Kong Techu was very young, handsome, and deeply in love with his lover, many women around the world regarded Jiang Tian as their ideal idol and became his loyal fans. A fan club of more than 100 million people was quickly formed. Young men were not even qualified to carry shoes for him. There were even singers who released a single, "If you want to marry, you should marry a man like Kong Techu." It was very popular and was widely sung. Not only the ordinary people, but also the top cultivation forces in Wuxia, such as Hongmeng and Kunlun, were paying close attention to Jiang Tian's movements. They could no longer ignore him. This time, Jiang Tian didn't make an appearance, only his disciples taking action, yet it made his name truly resound under the heavens, everyone knowing about him. Chapter 1073. In the time passage from the heavenly kingdom dimension to earth, Jiang Tian released endless vermilion bird light, enveloping himself and Huang Linger. He was calm and collected as he rushed over like lightning. Boom! Finally, the holy light in front flickered violently and then suddenly disappeared. Jiang Tian and Huang Linger had already landed on the ground. It was the Holy Tomb. It was originally the place where Saint Adam and Saint Paul slept, but now it had been leveled and a tall bronze statue had been built. His long robes fluttered in the wind, and his face was as handsome as a god's. His eyes were arrogant as he looked down on the world, but there was also a hint of hidden compassion. Beside him was the Xianxia Azure Dragon, the whirling divine tree, and the Gingjin divine general. Messiah was prostrating and praying devoutly in front of the bronze statue when he suddenly saw the door of holy light open. Then, Jiang Tian and Huang Linger appeared together. It must be an illusion. How can it be so fast? He rubbed his eyes hard, thinking that he was seeing things. Jiang Tian chuckled. You're not seeing things. It's really Sect Master Jiang. You're finally back. Tai Chu bless you. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Messiah was convinced that Jiang Tian had really returned. He couldn't help but tremble with excitement as he called out in surprise. His eyes were wet. But as soon as he said that, he felt that it was very awkward and contradictory. Jiang Tian was worshipped by them as a true god, an omniscient and omnipotent god. Tai Chu bless me, thanks to Tai Chu's blessings, or, I swear in the name of Tai Chu, had become the catchphrase of many believers. But in fact, why would Jiang Tian need his own protection? That didn't make sense logically. Jiang Tian smiled and said, all right, cut the crap. What's the situation now? West Earth invaded, but they were repelled by the powerhouses of Tianqing School. Messiah quickly reported concisely. Sect Master, you're finally back. At this time, the Wolf King also rushed over after hearing the news. He kowtowed with tears streaming down his face. In fact, everyone knew that Tianqing School's victory at Death Hill was just a warm-up for this war. There would be even more intense battles in the future. Therefore, the Wolf King and everyone else's hearts were hanging by a thread. At this time, Jiang Tian returned. His heart was completely at ease. Jiang Tian glanced at him and asked, how are my wife and child? Very good, very healthy. Alexander reported. Good. Get up. I'll return to Sidoni right away. Jiang Tian nodded. Canes, Chao Shixiang, and the other leaders have some follow-up matters to discuss with you. He's waiting outside the door. The Wolf King hesitated for a moment before probing. Jiang Tian's words clearly meant that he was going to step on his sword and fly back to Sidoni. However, the political leaders of various countries had been waiting for Jiang Tian for many years. But they didn't know how to fly. Jiang Tian frowned and said, I have to hurry home and take a look. How about this? Prepare a commercial plane or a fighter jet. I'll take the plane home. They'll accompany me. We'll have the meeting on the plane. Your private plane is at Rome International Airport. The Wolf King asked with trepidation, but the Russian Emperor hasn't arrived yet. Do you want to wait? He said that as long as you come back, he will only need 3 hours to take a private plane. What do you think? Nothing is more important than me going home to accompany my wife. Jiang Tian's voice suddenly turned cold. The Wolf King Alexander was so scared that his entire body trembled. He hurriedly bowed and said, this subordinate understands. If it was before, Jiang Tian would at least maintain superficial respect and courtesy when he met the leaders of large countries like the Russian Emperor and the President of the United States. After all, although Sidoni was powerful, other countries also had their own advantages. But now, Wuxia and Sidoni were the most important countries in the Earth Defense Alliance. Because he controlled the core technology of the only Kuelian that could kill the powerhouses of the dimensional world, Jiang Tian's international status had long left the Russian Emperor far behind. It would be giving him too much face to ask Jiang Tian to wait for him. Moreover, Jiang Tian was now the master of the heavenly state and the star dimension. The area there surpassed Earth, and the civilization there was more advanced. Why would he care about the leader of a mortal country like the Russian Emperor? The Wolf King immediately made the arrangements. A moment later, Jiang Tian and Huang Linger, accompanied by Messiah and the Wolf King, arrived at the airport. Canes, Chao Shixiang, the President of the European Union, Young, and many other officials and dignitaries gathered and waited for a long time. When they saw Jiang Tian arrive, they were so excited that they couldn't stop crying. They all bowed to Jiang Tian to show the highest respect. There was no need to ask. Jiang Tian's safe return was equivalent to announcing that Jiang Tian had taken over the heavenly state dimension. At this time, Jiang Tian had already dominated 3 worlds and was the supreme ruler. Jiang Tian didn't bother to be polite with them. He just wanted to go home as soon as possible, so he hurriedly boarded the plane. On the plane, Keynes and the others immediately reported the situation to Jiang Tian. They reported that India had rebelled temporarily and wanted to surrender to West Earth. They also asked Jiang Tian to make a decision. In fact, other than the Indian general who had rebelled temporarily, there were many members of the upper class of India who were extremely Brahmin believers and looked forward to the arrival of West Earth. Our Pentagon's spies in the Indian military obtained intelligence. In the process of your advancement to the Holy See, the president of the Indian National Academy of Sciences, Raman, once suggested to the Department of Defense to launch nuclear weapons on you. Keynes' eyes were like torches as he said in a deep voice, but because the Brahmin was very confident in this battle, Gaia expressed that he could kill you, and the Indian military was also worried that it would cause conflicts and local wars in Central Asia. In the end, this proposal was rejected. What else do you want to ask? Execute him. Jiang Tian frowned and said softly, "Don't wait for the International Court of Justice. Let's not wait for the International Military Court. I think it's too slow. We want to form our own joint court and don't need any defense procedures. Once the investigation is confirmed, he will be executed immediately." Isn't this suspected of interfering in the internal affairs of other countries? Will it violate international law? Will it cause their counterattack? European Union President Jung wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The others also looked uneasy. Jiang Tian's actions were too extreme. If you don't kill him, then I'll kill him myself. I don't even need to do anything for this kind of person to die. Jiang Tian's posture was lazy, but his gaze was as sharp as a blade as he said indifferently, "Do you know that if I wasn't there, if the Kuelian and Tianqing school weren't there, it would only take a month for the West Earth dimension and their henchmen to wipe out all the humans on Earth?" "Yes, we understand." Keynes, Jung, and the others nodded their heads vigorously. Jiang Tian was suddenly taken aback. He didn't say a word as a glint of darkness flashed in his eyes. He thought of his last life 8,000 years later, after he had ascended to the divine realm. The entire Earth and even the Milky Way had become a dark zone. There was no life, no matter, and no time. It must have been wiped out by the divine realm. In this cruel, cold, and endless vast universe, Earth, a tiny blue planet, must strive to develop, strengthen itself, and dare to raise its eyebrows and draw its sword against any invaders. Capitulationism and defeatism were not acceptable. Those who led the way had to be killed. In fact, Jiang Tian didn't know when the Earth and the Milky Way had been destroyed in his last life. But a conservative guess was that it would take at least a few hundred years. Jiang Tian still had enough time to save the civilization. But the premise was that the entire Earth and all the humans had to be united. Fortresses were often breached from the inside. Losing humanity meant losing a part of it. But losing the bestial nature meant losing everything. In the face of a calamity, if one didn't have the courage to cut off all means of retreat, if one didn't have the ruthlessness and decisiveness to sweep away all obstacles, and if one didn't have the ruthlessness to nip the bad seeds in the bud, before West Earth attacked, the various countries on Earth would have already started fighting. It might even be the Third World War. Chapter 1074. Immediately, the Earth Defense Alliance issued an announcement that they would file a lawsuit against those rebels and sentence them to death. When the news came, the world was in an uproar. At this time, Jiang Tian had returned to Sidoni and came to the training hall of Tianqing School. "Jiang Tian, you're back." Qing'er came out to greet him. Only now was she told that Jiang Tian had made a trip to the kingdom of heaven. Jiang Tian nodded, revealing a touch of joy. His divine sense had already scanned that Qing'er's cultivation had returned to the peak of qi refining stage, and the child in her belly was also very healthy. It seemed that using the spiritual energy seed to maintain the vitality of Xianxia and his baby daughter was indeed effective. I'm really sorry that this time, I didn't fight side by side with you. Zhao Xueqing's face was full of apology, and tears were flickering in her beautiful eyes. Although she didn't go to the kingdom of heaven personally, she could imagine the danger of that battle. Presumably, there were many strong people there, and even Jiang Tian might be injured. Because she knew that in Jiang Tian's heart, she and his baby daughter must be the most important, and he always cared about them. If Jiang Tian wasn't injured, he would definitely come back as soon as possible. However, Jiang Tian was delayed in the kingdom of heaven for several months. There was only one explanation, and that was that Jiang Tian was injured and was healing. You and the child's health is more important than anything else, Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, Zhao Xueqing took Huang Linger's hand and smiled. Linger, this trip to the kingdom of heaven, you've worked hard. Huang Linger shook her head gently and said with shame, I didn't help much and became a burden. The strong people in the kingdom of heaven are too powerful. Linger, how powerful are the strong people in the kingdom of heaven? Xianxia was surprised. Linger was now at the early stage of foundation establishment. She was on par with Yitunren and Sidu Shao. She said that the experts in Heavenly Kingdom were so powerful. It was obvious that they were really terrifying. After Huang Linger finished talking, Zhao Xueqing's face revealed a trace of worry and said in a solemn voice, This Heavenly Kingdom world is actually not inferior to Heavenly Star. There are actually experts who have lived for tens of thousands of years, as well as giants and elves. I'm afraid it's the same for the other dimensional worlds. It seems like we have to raise our cultivation. At this time, the most important thing for you is to take care of the fetus. With your husband here, don't worry, they won't be able to break in. Jiang Tian smiled warmly with a hint of praise. However, Linger blocked the sacred ancestors' attack for me and gave me some time to catch my breath. Otherwise, I would have been beaten up by Qi Liao. Huang Linger was praised by Jiang Tian. She was both embarrassed and happy. She lowered her head and didn't say anything. Zhao Xueqing also knew that Huang Linger had deep feelings for Jiang Tian. However, the two of them had always been restrained by their feelings. However, Jiang Tian had been reborn, and his mentality was already different from ordinary people. He sighed with emotion in his heart. Zhao Xueqing changed the topic and revealed a hint of worry. Jiang Tian, the first wave of experts from West Earth has already attacked. What are your plans? Jiang Tian said indifferently, I'll first set up a defensive array formation. Then, I'll attack West Earth and beat them until they submit. In fact, what Jiang Tian wanted to set up was not a defensive array formation, but the 9 Dragons Guiding Spirit Array. It was just that he didn't want Xianxia to worry about her physique, so he didn't say it clearly. This array formation could be called an unparalleled array formation in the cultivation world. It was abnormally huge, and its surging power was directed to the depths of Earth. Then, with many spiritual energy recovery seeds as primers, it could trigger the spiritual energy contained in planet extermination in the depths of Earth to erupt and flow into Xianxia's body. This was equivalent to gathering half of the spiritual energy contained in ancient Earth into Xianxia's body would definitely be able to nourish the 2 pure Phoenix immortal bodies to the greatest extent. At that time, not only would they not have to worry about their lives, they could even achieve the ultimate sublimation of their physique and nurture a supreme immortal fetus. Jiang Tian's way of playing could be said to be extremely extravagant. If it wasn't for the many accumulations he had in Heavenly State and Heavenly Star, it would be impossible to create such a large array formation with just the natural treasures on Earth. This large array formation had almost exhausted all of the array formation materials that Jiang Tian had plundered in the 2 dimensions. However, this matter concerned the lives of his wife and children. Jiang Tian definitely wouldn't allow any mistakes. Jiang Tian immediately began to lead Zhang Chenzhen, Hong Yi, and the others from the crafting hall to survey the surrounding terrain. This time, the array formation covered an area of 10 kilometers, which had already exceeded the range of Tianqing School's dojo. After completing the survey, Jiang Tian immediately declined the visitors. He didn't leave the dojo at all. Instead, he led Hong Yi and the others to draw the design of the array formation. By then, even if he wasn't there, Hong Yi, Zhang Chenjian, and the others could still follow the design and set up the array formation. After spending a few days, Jiang Tian led everyone to complete the design of the array formation. The corresponding materials were also prepared. This was done by Jiang Tian. In his previous life, he had experienced ups and downs for thousands of years. In terms of array formation attainments, he could be said to be a grandmaster. Therefore, everything was done with great ease. Even Hong Yi, a famous array formation expert in Southeast Asia, might not be able to complete it in his lifetime. A few days later, oh my God, this array formation is so vast. Seeing the embryonic form of the array formation, Hong Yi, Zhang Chenjian, and the others suddenly looked as if they had seen a heavenly book. This array formation is divided into 5 major components. There are more than 10,000 components of the array formation. There are more than 30,000 crystals. These components are so exquisite. They contain a lot of profound array formation knowledge. They have enlightened me a lot. This array formation was vast and extremely complicated. It was like a colossal object, and its scale was even several times larger than the sunflower lotus system. If the Kuelian system hadn't been tested successfully and played a huge role in stopping the invaders from West Earth, Hong Yi wouldn't have been able to complete it. Hong Yi and Zhang Chenjian would have doubted whether the array formation could work successfully. They wouldn't dare to take the risk. Don't worry. This is a spirit gathering and spirit channeling array. It's not a weapon. Even if the system makes a mistake, it won't be a big threat. Jiang Tian's eyes were burning like torches. Once this array formation works, the entire Sidoni and even half of the earth will become a sacred place for cultivation. It's comparable to the dimensional world. What? Comparable to the dimensional world? Huang Linger and Yi Tianren were shocked after hearing this. The old dragon was so shocked that his body swayed and he sat on the ground. They had followed Jiang Tian to the dimensional world. Although the cultivators in the dimensional world were superior and regarded the humans on Earth as ants, the spiritual chi of the dimensional world was very powerful. But they had to admit that. The spirit chi in the dimensional world was indeed 10 times or even 100 times more than that on Earth. The cultivation speed was also several times faster and the overlords were also numerous. In Heavenly Star and Heavenly State, there were at least a few thousand Foundation Establishment overlords and there were even Golden Core overlords. But on Earth, there were only a few Foundation Establishment overlords. There were less than 50 Foundation Establishment cultivators, and many of them had condensed their blood and stopped their lifespan over hundreds of years. That's right. This time, I'm not only doing it for myself and Sidoni, but also for the recovery of the spirit chi on Earth. Jiang Tian looked into the distance and sighed softly. On Earth, there used to be a brilliant cultivation civilization. However, due to various reasons, the spiritual energy in the world declined, and we entered the Age of Doom. The orthodoxy was gradually cut off and disappeared. Earth could have been more powerful. Once the spirit chi on Earth recovers, Earth will become a cultivation planet. Only when the overlords come out together can we get rid of the fate of being enslaved and destroyed in the future. You have to know that you have to be strong to forge iron. That had always been Jiang Tian's philosophy. Relying on the heavens, the earth and fate was unreliable. One had to rely on oneself and be independent. In the face of a crisis, one had to work hard and develop to strengthen oneself. There was nothing that couldn't be defeated. As Jiang Tian spoke, his expression was as calm as still water, and his voice was neither fast nor slow. But to everyone, it was like thunder in their ears. Their divine souls shook and their jaws almost fell to the ground. They couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian's vision was really sharp. His vision was not limited to a country, a city, or a place, but the whole world. With the spirit chi revival seeds as the primer and the unparalleled array as the driving force, he triggered the shocking magical treasures of the ancient times to revive the spirit chi on Earth. Finally, he achieved the goal of evolving human beings and resisting the invaders of other dimensions and even more powerful worlds. What kind of breadth of mind was this? What kind of great talent was that? What kind of earth-shattering achievement was that? It could be said that he was changing the direction of human civilization and achieving a leap and evolution of Earth and human beings. It could even be said that Jiang Tian had opened another door for the advancement of human civilization. Both technology and cultivation were equally matched. However, this matter needs to be pushed forward slowly and with extreme caution. Jiang Tian's face was slightly solemn. The recovery of spirit qi will cause a great change in the world and even some kind of turmoil. The world's superpowers must be fully prepared to guard against it. It will cause chaos in the world. Huang Linger exclaimed. Of course. Next to her, Yi Tianren's eyes were like torches and he interrupted with a solemn face. According to legend, in the ancient times, before the twilight of the gods, on ancient Earth, gods, humans, monsters, and spirits lived side by side. Master has realized the recovery of spirit qi on Earth. It is expected that not only humans will evolve, but also beasts and spirits will appear. This is an unprecedented challenge for the human race. It may even suppress the human race. Monsters. Huang Linger suddenly remembered the fire-breathing pterosaur on the Mangu Mountain in the Kingdom of Heaven. A trace of fear appeared on her face and she said with worry, "If we do this, won't we be plunging the entire human race into a huge crisis?" As soon as these words came out, everyone present also looked at Jiang Tian uneasily, as if waiting for Jiang Tian's answer. Chapter 1075. But Jiang Tian didn't answer. Instead, his expression changed slightly. He stepped into the air and flew out of the door to the roof of the central hall of Tianqing School. From here, one could overlook the entire Tianqing School's Daoist field, the capital of San Juan in the south, and the magnificent Kuelian Mountains. Standing proudly in the air, a strong sense of pride suddenly rose from the bottom of his heart. "Why don't you come out to meet me?" Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and an exquisite small table appeared on the roof of the hall. On it were wine cups and jugs made of green jade. Jiang Tian waved his hand and the jug flew to him. The clear immortal wine from Star World was poured into the wine cup with great precision. The aroma of the wine overflowed. Then, he warmed it with the fire of the vermilion bird. Instantly, the aroma spread for 10 miles and intoxicated countless people. Good wine. Seeing Immortal Master Zhang's skill in warming wine, I really wasted my time in this world. I don't know anything about wine. Deep in the clouds, an old man in a loose robe stood in the air. He was bathed in the moonlight and stood on the clouds like an immortal. Since ancient times, the sages have been lonely. Only the drinkers leave their names. This wine is called Drunken Immortal. It's the collection of heaven and earth Taoist Li Longyuan from Star World. Sir, you have the style of an immortal. This wine is really good for you. Jiang Tian made an inviting gesture. The old man came so fast. He didn't even move his legs. In a flash, he crossed the distance of several kilometers and sat down in front of Jiang Tian. He picked up the wine cup and drank it. Then, his eyes lit up and he praised, as expected of an immortal wine. Good wine. Li Wuji, sect master of Kunlun sect. Jiang Tian also sat down across from him and said with a careless smile, "Among the many famous mountains in Wuxia, your Kunlun sect is the ancestral court of Taoism and is respected by the world. And I once defeated Zhang Qianlei of the Celestial Master sect of Mount Longhu, killed Chen Pingan of the Ancient Martial sect, and executed Hao Taichong of the Amei sect. The number of Dao sect disciples who died by my hands is innumerable. Are you here for a fight, or just to drink?" This person was none other than the sect leader of the Kunlun sect, Li Wuji. His seniority was very high, and he had lived a long life. His cultivation level was unfathomable. Even Yi Tianren, who was strong, had received his guidance in the past. He was the world wayfarer of the Kunlun sect. He represented the Kunlun sect in interfering with the secular world and turned the tide. The Kunlun sect was ethereal and mysterious. It was far away from the secular world and was known as the real hidden sect. They would not easily come out of the mountains unless the world was truly destroyed. It was said that the dojo was hidden in the depths of a space array and was located in a folded space. In essence, it could even be said to be the dimensional world closest to Earth. Jiang Tian had slaughtered many semi-hidden sects in Wuxia, stirring up a storm of blood time and time again, but the Kunlun sect had always stood aside and never intervened. An old man is not senile yet. Li Wuji fiddled with the wineglass and said with a smile, "Everyone knows that you, Kong Teichu, are a murderous maniac with blood-stained hands. But I know that you, Kong Teichu, have never killed the innocent or bullied the weak. Those you kill are those who deserve to be killed. Ha, I'll drink to my heart's content with your words." Jiang Tian laughed heartily. He picked up the wineglass and drank it in one gulp, then poured more wine for Li Wuji. At this time, Yi Tianren went to the roof and bowed with deep gratitude and respect. He said, "Unworthy disciple Yin, greets master. Greetings, sect leader." As for the others, they were not qualified to come up to greet Li Wuji. Only Huang Linger helped to pour wine. "Heavenly man, get up." Li Wuji showed a hint of appreciation and smiled warmly. Yi Tianren stood aside respectfully. Li Wuji shook his head and said with a smile, "I can't be your master. Back then, I only gave you a few pointers and didn't hold a disciple recruitment ceremony. I can't be your sect leader either." But Yi Tianren was surprised. "I've already handed over the position of sect leader to Ji Muxian. Now, he's just an idle person," Li Wuji said with a smile. Well, Yi Tianren was stunned. He suddenly remembered that Li Wuji was already 500 years old, and he was only at the third level of the Foundation establishment realm. He was probably nearing the end of his life. The spirit chi on Earth was severely depleted. At the level of the Foundation establishment realm, being powerful didn't mean that one could live longer. Without the nourishment of external spirit chi, one's body would wither and collapse at any time. It was like a strong man who needed more food to nourish himself. The stronger he was, the more energy he would consume. According to Jiang Tian, one could only rely on the accumulated true essence to slowly release it and maintain a longer lifespan unless they formed a golden core. Therefore, he changed the topic and nodded in admiration. Junior brother Muxian is extremely talented and has amazing comprehension. You also have great wisdom and perseverance. In the future, you will definitely bring glory to the Kunlun sect. Yi Tianren was unyielding and unyielding. He was never weaker than others in his life. He dared to raise his sword to the heavens and fight against immortals. There were only two people he admired in his life. One was naturally Jiang Tian, and the other was Ji Muxian. When Yi Tianren joined Kunlun, Ji Muxian was only in his teens, but he had already reached the immortal state. After decades of hard work, he might have reached the Foundation establishment realm. Of course, the Kunlun sect was a paradise. It was full of spiritual energy and was blessed by nature. Moreover, there were many martial arts inheritances from the pre-Qin period. This was also the condition for his rapid progress. However, Jiang Tian had also traveled through space and had a lifespan of 10,000 years. His martial arts experience was also superior to Ji Muxian's. Therefore, in this aspect, Ji Muxian might even surpass Jiang Tian in terms of talent and physique. What's there to bring glory to? The Kunlun sect is far away from the secular world and doesn't care about worldly affairs. We are not like Immortal Master Jiang, who has great talent and great vision to govern the world and help the people. We are only searching for the truth of life and our true nature. Li Wuji smiled faintly and shook his head gently. His attitude was humble and detached from worldly affairs. "Please don't laugh at me, brother Wuji," Jiang Tian said politely. "I am the kind of person who can't see the light. I seek fame and fortune, work hard in the secular world, and indulge in love. I am not like brother Wuji, who is indifferent and has great vision. It is admirable." Although Jiang Tian said so, there was no trace of respect in his words. Li Wuji just casually agreed and sipped a few mouthfuls of wine with Jiang Tian. "Immortal Master Jiang, you have killed many people in the heavenly state and heavenly star domains. Have you reached the golden core realm?" Suddenly, Li Wuji asked with a hopeful face. I am only at the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Jiang Tian didn't hide and said bluntly, it's just that I have a special physique that allows me to unleash super powerful combat power and defeat Golden Core Realm cultivators. Special physique? Li Wuji's eyes lit up, revealing a hint of envy as he exclaimed in admiration. In the field of martial arts and sorcery in Wuxia, there is no one who can rely on body refinement to raise their combat power to the level of Golden Core Realm cultivators. For example, external physique refinement grandmasters can only stop at the immortal state if they forcefully refine their bodies. Moreover, it will damage their lifespan. Therefore, they usually need to nourish their bodies with powerful medicines. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said, my body refinement technique is also nourished by supreme medicines. It will not damage my lifespan. In fact, he still had some reservations. These divine bodies were refined with the most precious treasures. Not only would they not damage one's lifespan, but they would also prolong it. Hearing this, Li Wuji's face became even more envious. He shook his head and sighed. Alas, Immortal Master Jiang, you have reached the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm at such a young age. You are better than the old man. The old man has been cultivating diligently all these years for nothing. I'm afraid the old man has no hope of reaching the Golden Core Realm in this lifetime. Fellow Daoist Jiang, on the other hand, has a high chance of reaching the Golden Core Realm and transcending this world. Sensing the bleakness in this person's words, Jiang Tian felt sad. Yi Tianren also looked sad. Although Jiang Tian adhered to the principle of education without discrimination, he would not easily impart supreme cultivation techniques to Li Wuji. Even if he did, he would only do so after Li Wuji was loyal and reliable. Jiang Tian changed the topic and said seriously, fellow Daoist Wuji, why are you looking for me? Li Wuji's face was slightly solemn. He glanced at Wang Lin and said, Immortal Master Jiang, just now this girl was worried that the recovery of spirit qi would cause chaos in the world. In fact, the old man was also worried about this. Immortal Master Jiang, this is a serious matter. You have to think twice before you act. Chapter 1076. Brother Wuji, have you ever read an article called Warning of the Enemy? Jiang Tian asked. People like Li Wuji had long been well-versed in both Eastern and Western medicine. He immediately nodded and said, a short article by Lu Zongyuan of the Tang dynasty. Jiang Tian stood up with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Sidoni San Juan and the villas of the Immortal Healing Village and said slowly, people have always regarded enemies as scourges. Those who are weak will avoid them and those who are strong will eradicate them. Only Lu Zongyan thought that having enemies is a good thing. Back then, the Qin state had 6 enemies, so they were cautious. After eliminating the 6 nations and unifying the world, because there was no threat from the enemy, they relaxed and relaxed, falling into decline. The existence of enemies made us not arrogant and impatient. We were careful and did not let ourselves get carried away. As the saying goes, punishing the sick will shorten the life. If we don't stop indulging, we will be foolish. In Europe, after the Roman Empire, countries fought for supremacy. Just like our spring and autumn period, there were endless wars. For a country to survive in such an environment, they must work hard. As for Wuxia, for the past 2,000 years after the unification of the Qin dynasty, it has almost always been a situation where one country is the strongest. There is no other country in the vicinity that has the population and economic strength to compete with the Central Empire for a long time. Without a strong enemy, without external pressure, the internal situation would naturally deteriorate. There was no horn at the frontier, but there was singing and dancing. Since the Qin dynasty, the history of the empire was worse than the previous generation. The spirit of the entire society was deteriorating. It was the long-term effect of this historical environment that made people addicted to peace and happiness. They did not want to make progress, were timid and apathetic. It was because of this that there was the 100 years of suffering and humiliation in Wuxia's modern history. A country is like this, a civilization is also like this. The thousands of years of human civilization is empty inside. After thousands of years, it has long been completely decayed. Jiang Tian's words were shocking. Li Wuji nodded slightly and fell into deep thought. Jiang Tian said leisurely, "Brother Wuji, you should know about the existence of the ruins of immortality?" "Of course." Li Wuji's eyes lit up and he nodded. "I heard that during the ancient times, there were invasions from the outer realms. Many powerful beings were no match for them, and some of them began to flee. They used the fragments of the ancient earth to create many multidimensional worlds. Heavenly State is the dimensional world of ancient Europe, while West Earth should belong to the civilization of ancient India. And the ancient Wuxia continent gave birth to the most dimensional worlds. With the ruins of immortality as the leader, there are also Heavenly Star and many other dimensional worlds. The ruins of immortality and the multidimensional worlds are hostile to Earth." Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a long look in his eyes, "Once they attack, it will be the end of the world." That was because the humans on Earth were too far behind those from the Cultivation civilization. They were not on the same level. It's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'm afraid the entire human civilization on Earth won't last a year. And the recovery of spirit energy will achieve the simultaneous evolution of humans and other creatures on Earth. That's right. These commonly seen wolves, insects, tigers, and leopards will all evolve into demonic beasts that are as strong as mountains and wage war against humans. But they are still on the same order of magnitude as the humans on Earth. The humans on Earth can strengthen themselves and evolve their civilization by hunting them down. This is still just a trial, nothing more. Our real enemy is the ruins of immortality, or even in the depths of the starry sky, a greater threat. Jiang Tian's eyes were fixed as he sighed deeply. A greater threat in the starry sky? Li Wuji's eyes were filled with shock. Do you mean that there are really extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial civilizations? The universe looks empty, but it's actually very crowded. Jiang Tian looked up at the stars in the sky and didn't answer directly. Instead, he smiled and said, "It's like an ant on a leaf. It feels that the leaf is very empty, but for a caterpillar, the leaf is too narrow. A caterpillar feels that a big tree is very vast, but to a monkey, a big tree is very narrow. If a dozen monkeys are on a tree, they will have to fight each other." The first law of the universe is that the higher the level of a civilization, the more resources it needs and the more space it will occupy. On the surface, the resources of the universe seem to be inexhaustible, but in fact, with the improvement of civilization and the increase of power, a planet, a star field, or even a galaxy's resources will be scarce or even exhausted at any time. So, the threat is always there. What fellow cultivator Absolute Beginning said makes so much sense. His words are like a wake-up call to me. Li Wuji slapped his thigh and praised. Then, he shook his head with a wry smile. Our Kunlun sect has succeeded because of the 4 words tranquility and inaction, and we have failed because of these 4 words. Old man, I don't know if you're from another planet or if you're the reincarnation of an old man, but you have such a great ability, a broad vision, and a deep understanding of the world. Old man, I'm not as good as you. Yi Tianren also agreed. The most powerful beings on this planet, such as Jiang Tian, Genichi Miyamoto, the Blood Ancestor, Nie Mingyuan and Jia Yi, had once fought to the death. They were fighting for cultivation resources. Because the spirit chi and heavenly materials and earthly treasures on Earth had been exhausted, if they didn't fight for them, they would never be able to advance. It was like a few caterpillars on a leaf. The caterpillars looked small, but they felt that it was too crowded. For ordinary people, the exploitation of resources on Earth in the past few thousand years was still limited to the land under their feet. However, many resources on Earth had not been exhausted yet, and humans had already begun to reach out to other planets. Just like in the age of the Great Voyage, Europe opened up and looked for new trade routes and partners, and even started wars and colonized other countries, achieving the rise of capitalism and modern countries. The government of the Qing dynasty was arrogant and closed the country. If they lost this opportunity, they would fall behind and be beaten. In the future, humans would enter the age of interstellar travel and launch a new round of competition. The territory of activities would be greatly expanded. My friend, please don't laugh at me. Jiang Tian smiled and said, my small dojo is only a few thatched cottages. It's not as rich as the Kunlun sect and has the foundation left by the predecessors. It's like a rootless duckweed with no support. It has no choice but to compete with others for small benefits. Alas, Tai Chu, you're too modest. Li Wuji looked at the Tianqing school dojo, which was full of spirit qi, with a hint of envy on his face. He shook his head and sighed. The Kunlun sect lives in sorrow and dies in peace. It's because they thought that they had a strong foundation that they lost the courage to forge ahead. Now they are in decline. Unlike you, my friend Jiang, who is working hard to conquer the world, the Tianqing school is full of powerful cultivators and is full of vitality. Its foundation is not worse than Kunlun's. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, Tianqing school has a good foundation in the Tianqing school. The Tianqing school does have good things. Kong Teichu, even have supreme cultivation methods. Now, the spirit qi on earth is scarce and there are few cultivation resources. If you want to fight for them, you can try. Hearing this, Yi Turn suddenly became nervous and his whole body tensed up. Wang Lin, who was pouring wine for Jiang Tian and Li Wuji, turned pale. Her right hand trembled and the jade wine cup fell to the ground with a clang. Chapter 1077. My friend Tai Chu, please don't make such a joke. Look at how scared these two juniors are. Li Wuji, however, threw his head back and laughed. When Kong Teichu was weak, I might have been able to take it from you. But now, you can fight against a golden core cultivator. How can an old man fight against a monster like you? Besides, I heard that your Kuelian can even kill a golden core cultivator. I don't want to mess with you. You and I are both the mainstays of Wuxia. Now that the enemy is in front of us, wouldn't it make our enemies happy? Do you agree with me now? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. Listening to you is better than studying for 10 years. Now that we're involved in a war of civilizations, this old man can't just sit back and watch. We have to fight against the dimensional world and restore the spirit qi. This old man is willing to help Master Immortal Jiang. Li Wuji put away his smile and nodded. Good. Senior Li, you're right. The Kunlun sect and Tianqing school are two top sects in Wuxia. It's great that we can work together to fight against the dimensional world. Once this news is announced, the world will be shocked. Yi Tianren said excitedly. The Kunlun sect was a peerless sect. It relied on the yin and yang dust array to fold in a small dimensional world at the top of the Kunlun sect. There were tens of thousands of disciples in this world with a radius of dozens of miles. All of them were powerful and had amazing power. Li Wuji said, Master Immortal Jiang, heavenly being, I have another suggestion. Fellow Daoist, please feel free to speak your mind. Master Immortal Jiang, do you have a way to break open the dimensional door on the Death Hill? Li Wuji asked. I think so. Jiang Tian nodded. According to Jiang Tian's speculation, there should be a teleportation array under the Death Hill. The Death Hillock explosion back then should have been caused by the unstable energy of the teleportation array, or by someone forcefully breaking it open. But as long as the teleportation array was still there, Jiang Tian, who was now at the 4th level of the Foundation establishment stage and had the strength to kill golden core cultivators, could break it open by force or by trickery using the secret space key. If Immortal Master Jiang is willing, this old man is willing to accompany Immortal Master Jiang to conquer West Earth. Li Wuji cupped his fists and said emotionally. Wang Lin's expression changed slightly. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure it out for a while. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian said without hesitation, All right, fellow Daoist Li. Then let's fight side by side. You can even bring a few disciples with you and treat it as an experience. Beside him, Yi Tianren nodded in agreement. This time, Wang Lin accompanied Jiang Tian to the Heavenly Kingdom. Although she didn't help much, it trained her combat awareness and was of great benefit. Tang Linglong commanded the Battle of the Death Hill, and it was also obvious that she had improved. No wonder your Tianqing school has grown so strong so quickly. There are no weak soldiers in the school. It turns out that there are great teachers like you. Fellow Daoist Tai Chu, you are not leading disciples, but troops. Li Wuji glanced at Yi Tianren with a smile and said, "This time, I'll bring Yi Karen and a few elite disciples." "Thank you, Senior Wuji." Yiren was overjoyed when he heard that. He went to Star World and received guidance from Jiang Tian. He also obtained endless cultivation resources and combat experience. It could be said that he benefited greatly. Yi Karen had such an opportunity at such a young age. It was really worth celebrating. At this moment, Li Wuji suddenly flicked his finger, and a small sandalwood box appeared in his hand out of thin air. The inheritance of Kunlun is indeed extraordinary. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. Li Wuji was wearing a storage ring. This was the second time Jiang Tian had encountered a local space Dharma treasure after returning to Earth, except for the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Moreover, when he scanned it with his divine sense, he found that his divine sense did not penetrate the wooden box. Of course, if he used the Soul Devourer's divine sense, he could wear down even the most powerful divine sense array, but there was no need for that at this time. Jiang Tian's face was as calm as water. He said, "What is this?" "Immortal Master Jiang, haven't you been looking for the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality? The old man has a few here as a gift for Immortal Master Jiang. I think your incomplete map of the ruins of immortality will become the complete map of the ruins of immortality," Li Wuji said with a smile. What? Huang Linger and Yi Tianren were shocked. This was a supreme treasure that involved the specific location of the gate of the ruins of immortality. Even Song Shuangyan, with her status, had been eager to obtain it. She could even get the opportunity to join Mount Shu and Mount Amei with a few admission tickets. Li Wuji opened the box and took out 3 yellowed fragments. He smiled and said with a smile, "Just like what Tai Chu said, the ruins of immortality are very likely to have evil intentions towards Earth. And if we wait here, we can only wait passively." The old man believes that if Tai Chu finds the gate of the ruins of immortality and enters the world of immortality, it is better to take the initiative to attack than to wait for death. Dao Friend Limitless, your gift is too precious. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and knew that the fragment was real. And when combined with the incomplete map he had obtained, it happened to be a complete map of the ruins of immortality. Hearing this, Heavenly Yi bowed deeply with cupped fists and said emotionally, "Senior Li's breadth of mind is truly admirable." Huang Linger also thought that this old Taoist was much more magnanimous than Hao Taichung and other sect leaders. No wonder he was the top Taoist sect leader of Kunlun. Li Wuji seemed to be careless about his respect for Yi Tianren. He waved his hand and said to Jiang Tian, "However, the old man heard that the ruins of immortality is located at the other end of the starry sky. It is a large cultivation planet. The weakest cultivators on it are at the immortal state. There are countless human immortals, earth immortals, and sky immortals. There are even more powerful cultivators, such as perfected immortals and perfected cultivators. You'd better increase your cultivation to the limit and have a 100% chance of winning. Of course, I won't go there easily until I reach the golden core level and can kill nascent soul level cultivators." Jiang Tian nodded. "However, as far as I know, in the long history of the ruins of immortality, there have been people who came to Earth to guide the geniuses of the human race on Earth to cultivate in the ruins of immortality. However, it seems that they can only come to Earth once every few hundred years. I don't know the exact time. People from the ruins of immortality have come to Earth." Jiang Tian was slightly moved. Yi Tianren and Huang Linger were also shocked. "That's right," Li Wuji said. "The big explosion in the Tianqi era was actually caused by a battle between the people of the immortal ruins on Earth. A sword fell from the sky. Later, it was brought to Amei by the Amei sect master, the state protector. This shows that the ruins of immortality is not a monolithic block. If Master Immortal Jiang goes to the ruins of immortality, you should unite some pacifists and win more support. You know, fortresses are always breached from the inside. Jiang Tian also cupped his fists and said, "Don't worry, fellow cultivator. Once I find the transmission array to the ruins of immortality, I will definitely invite you to open it together." Li Wuji smiled and said indifferently, "Alas, Immortal Master Jiang, I don't have much time left to live. I've seen through it all and have no more worries. I no longer have the heart to pursue the mystery of eternal life. It's better for this old man to be your assistant and guard Earth." Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "It would be best if you could see through everything." Li Wuji nodded and suddenly said, "However, Master Immortal Jiang, if we go to the West Earth this time and obtain the spiritual chi recovery seed, which can really recover the spiritual chi of Earth, then you and I still have to make some preparations for the mutation and evolution of living creatures and the emergence of demonic beasts. Master Wuji, what good plan do you have?" Jiang Tian asked. "The Kunlun sect is going to go out of the mountain and help the Huaxia Long formation and the Tianqing school to guard Huaxia. What do you think, Master Immortal Jiang?" Li Wuji asked. Wang Lin frowned again. She didn't know why, but she felt that something was wrong again. However, she couldn't say anything at all. After all, Li Wuji had already shown his sincerity by giving away the incomplete map of the ruins of deities. "I must have gauged the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. This kind of immortal-like person can't be like what I thought," Wang Lin thought to herself. Jiang Tian said without hesitation, "Good. Right now, we should work together and fight side by side." "I agree with this wholeheartedly." Li Wuji's face lit up again. "Besides, the reclusive royalty has offended Master Immortal Jiang. Yingying Laozu also said that he would help the Tianqing school to guard Huaxia and make up for his mistakes. But they can't leave their homeland and they don't have a leader. They want to join the Huaxia Long formation with the Kunlun sect and form an alliance to guard Huaxia. What do you think, Master Immortal Jiang?" Chapter 1078. Jiang Tian looked at the map of the immortal ruins carefully, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He said, "Very interesting. This is a map that can self-destruct." Jiang Tian glanced at the two of them and said with a smile, "In short, this is the location map of the teleportation array in the immortal ruins. Once it is stolen, the owner can hide the real content with just a thought. What will be revealed will be the wrong information." "In that case," Yi Tianren exclaimed, "even if the owner of the map is killed and the map is stolen, the robber will only follow the wrong words and run around like a headless fly." Huang Lin said, "Then wouldn't the efforts of Gu Baixian, the archaeology professor of Yanjing University, be in vain? It can't be considered as a waste." Jiang Tian laughed and said, "In order to study the original map, he published a lot of papers and has become the top ancient language expert in the country. He is also the deputy director of Yanjing University. But now the text and the map are gone. What should we do?" Yi Tianren frowned and asked. Jiang Tian and Tianqing School had spent a lot of manpower and resources to get the map of the teleportation array in the immortal ruins. They had fought all the way to Japan, destroyed the Song family, the martial arts family of Yanjing, and finally gathered all the information. Now that it had disappeared, Tianren was anxious and regretful. "Come out. If you don't come out, I will refine you into pieces." Jiang Tian didn't answer Yi Tianren. Instead, he flicked his finger. Suddenly, a finger light suppressed the sky above the map of the immortal ruins, ready to be released. The map of the immortal ruins moved without wind and kept trembling, as if it were alive and full of fear. "Alas, why do you have to force me?" With an ancient sigh, the map shone brightly, and a hidden shadow floated out from it. This shadow vaguely had the shape of a human, and it was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. It was blurry and distorted, and it was a shadow formed by golden light. "What is this? Divine soul?" Heavenly Yi was surprised. "This map fragment itself is a spiritual treasure. Only divine transformation realm cultivators can forge it." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. As for this phantom, it is the weapon spirit hidden within the spiritual treasure. It has its own consciousness. To put it simply, the soul is born from the consciousness and spirit of a living being, and the artifact spirit is contained within the artifact. However, this kind of weapon spirit that can condense into a human form is a top-grade spirit treasure. After Jiang Tian finished explaining, he looked at the artifact spirit and said with a smile, "Say what you need to say. What's your background?" "I won't say anything. What can you do to me?" The artifact spirit said arrogantly. "This picture is not only a guide, but also a ticket. I only need to throw you into the furnace, and the teleportation array will activate on its own, right?" Jiang Tian rolled up the map of the Immortal ruins and used it as a fan to fan himself. Jiang Tian could be said to be a grandmaster-level figure in the study of array formations. In his previous life, he had set up several heavenly cycle star arrays. That was a real star. With a star region as the array disk, stars as the array base, and star energy as the power, he could control the energy of stars to form an apocalyptic attack. In this world, what kind of array formation could escape Jiang Tian's eyes? The artifact spirit was stunned for a moment, then said in a trembling voice, "If you can't find the teleportation array, why are you burning this ticket?" Jiang Tian's eyes were cold, and a mocking smile appeared on his face as he said slowly, "Yes, I can't find the teleportation array, so I don't need you anymore. But if that's the case, you won't have a place to live. Your primordial spirit doesn't have a fixed place to live. I'm afraid I don't even need to erase you. Your soul will disappear in less than a year, right? Don't burn this teleportation array ticket, please." The artifact spirit trembled in fear and knelt down before Jiang Tian. "Tell me, where is the gate of the ruins of immortality?" Jiang Tian asked lazily. "But I don't want to die." The artifact spirit was in a dilemma and cried, "I'll help you find the teleportation array, but you'll still burn me to activate it. If you help me find the teleportation array." Jiang Tian used the carrot and stick strategy, threatening and tempting. He said indifferently, "I'll help you find a place to live. A real human body." "Are you serious?" The artifact spirit was a little tempted. Since its birth, it had been refined into this ruins of immortality map by its master and could not move freely. These maps of the ruins of immortality were like a cage to it. What it envied the most was, of course, obtaining a human body and being able to move freely without the map. Moreover, after a long time, the primordial spirit was about to be destroyed and could not hold on for long. "Of course." Jiang Tian smiled. "In the West Earth, there's the perpetual life sect that extends its lifespan by seizing bodies many times. Whether it's seizing techniques or all kinds of bodies, they must have a lot of them. When I attack the West Earth, I'll be able to find a suitable body for you. You want to attack the West Earth mystic realm? What's your cultivation level?" The artifact spirit screamed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "What's the West Earth? My master has already been to Heavenly Kingdom and Heavenly Star, these two-dimensional worlds. He won a great victory and became the ruler," Yitanren said proudly. The artifact spirit was shocked and muttered, "Could it be that spirit chi has recovered? Tell me your background." Jiang Tian said coldly, "Then tell me the location of the teleportation array to the ruins of immortality." "My master is Li Er. He is also the reincarnation of Taishang Laojun, one of the three pure ones of Taoism," the artifact spirit said proudly. "He stepped on the purple aura from the east and left Hangu Pass from the west. He left me on earth to wait for the fated one. What do you want to ask? Just ask." Jiang Tian and Yi Tianren looked at each other. "It's actually my artifact spirit. Back then, there was a legend that Laozi left Hangu Pass from the west and the purple aura came from the east. In fact, he went to the western region, including ancient Tianzhu, to educate the Hu people and reincarnate Daoist Duobao as Shakyamuni, the Buddha. Legend has it that Laozi transformed into a beard to split the luck of the Western Buddhist sect. He wanted to straighten out the karma of Buddhism and prepare for the next calamity. Laozi also refined the Vajra bracelet, a supreme treasure of the Ren sect. But in fact, many scholars believed that the truth of this rumor should be that when Buddhism spread to Wuxia, the culturally confident Wuxia people didn't believe it and didn't accept it. The spread of Buddhism was hindered, so the Indian Buddhists fabricated the story of Laozi transforming into a Buddha and educating the Hu people. Jiang Tian asked, "What era did the Battle of Immortals and the Twilight of the Gods happen?" "After the Great War of the Humans and Magi, before the Battle of the Gods." The artifact spirit said. Legend has it that 4 billion years ago, the god of creation of Hongmeng created a chaotic world, which was divided into the human realm, the earth immortal realm, and the heavenly realm by Pangu. The human realm was the untainted world, which was extremely vast. Later, the demon race and the magi race fought a war in the untainted world. The untainted world was destroyed, and its fragments divided into many planets and ancient Earth. On ancient Earth, the human race and the remaining magi race stood side by side. They fought against each other and the factions were divided. In the end, the Ren sect won. But at this time, there were more powerful divine-level civilizations and extraterrestrial demons invading. The escaping sects drove the continents away, forming the Earth and the immortal ruins of today. In the end, the spirit chi of Earth was exhausted. The battle of the gods could be said to be the final radiance of the human race. After that battle, many Tao teachings were almost destroyed. And Laozi is actually a reincarnation of the ancient Grand Supreme Elder. He left the Tao teachings of the Preaching Chi refinement warriors. Then, he left Hangu Pass in the west, ascended the immortal ruins, and went to the depths of the universe. He didn't go to India, but to the depths of the universe? To the immortal ruins? Yi Tianren exclaimed. In fact, what the artifact spirit said could already be verified with what Bai Zhe said. It only confirmed the approximate time of the battle of the deities. However, the story about Laozi leaving Hangu Pass in the west was completely different from the previous rumors. Jiang Tian was shocked. The situation of the battle of the deities was gradually becoming clearer. Immortal ruins? The artifact spirit shook his head and said, "I'm the clone of Grand Supreme Elder. What's the point of going to the immortal ruins?" The immortal ruins in Centaurus is just a stop on the ancient path of stars. However, you can go to the central galaxy through the immortal ruins. The teleport array to the central galaxy was in the immortal ruins? Jiang Tian was shocked and his eyes lit up. Chapter 1079. Earth was at the edge of the Milky Way. As for the Milky Way, it was actually still in the wilderness at the edge of this universe. Jiang Tian had been to many cultivation planets in his previous life, and they were all in the central galaxy. From the ruins of immortality, which galaxy do you go to? Jiang Tian asked. 10,000 years ago, I visited the ruins of immortality with my father. It is said that through there, you can go to Saint Origin World. Saint Origin World. Jiang Tian slapped his thigh, his eyes filled with ecstasy. In his previous life, Jiang Tian had followed his master, the immortal sovereign, to Saint Origin World first. Saint Origin World was very close to the central galaxy. Moreover, there were many teleportation portals there. There, Jiang Tian had made many old friends, including a few who had become immortal emperors later on. So, the teleportation portal to the ruins of immortality is at Hangu Pass? Jiang Tian asked. So what if I tell you? You can't leave anyway. That's a great formation left behind by an ancient almighty. It needs a lot of energy. The spirit snorted. Jiang Tian smiled and said, "What if I revive the spiritual chi?" The tool spirit shivered as if it was scared. It screamed, "You know the existence of Star Destroyer? You got the spiritual chi revival seed?" "That's right," Jiang Tian said calmly. "If the spiritual chi is revived, it is very possible." The spirit said. Jiang Tian asked coldly, "How did Star Destroyer come to Earth? Is the mastermind behind it an extraterrestrial demon?" "I don't know about that. I didn't even explain it in detail back then. I just guessed that it should be from another Hongmeng world, which is not our world. It is very difficult to deal with. The spirit's voice trembled as if it was very worried. Jiang Tian asked again, does the current Kunlun sect come from my orthodoxy? It should be said that it came from the Ren sect of the primordial age. One of the three pure ones, Lord Daoda, was created by my original self. However, he had gone through the battle of immortals and the battle of investiture of the gods. He did not have much fate energy left, and he was even suppressed by a god-level civilization. Before the investiture of God's battle, I didn't even go to Kunlun Mountain when I returned to Earth. It seemed that I didn't think much of them. Said the device spirit. What does Li Wuji want from me? Your main original spirit follows him every day, so you should know, right? Jiang Tian asked coldly. Be careful of him, he's plotting against you. The artifact spirit cackled strangely. In his heart, Kunlun is the #1 orthodoxy, a peerless sect. He knew that Hangu Pass was where the transportation array of the ruins of immortality was located, but he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he gave this map to you in order to trick you and use you. Jiang Tian was already mentally prepared. He asked the artifact spirit some more questions. There were many details about the Battle of Immortals that he did not know. In the end, the artifact spirit said worriedly, are you really going to the ruins of immortality? It was said that there were many descendants of the demon race and the witch race in the ruins of immortality, and there were as many experts as there were clouds. 3,000 years ago, when I took me there, I exclaimed that the cultivation civilization there had developed too quickly. Li Wuji wants to trick me? He's too weak. Jiang Tian snorted disdainfully. He immediately began to design and engrave many spirit guiding array discs. The Tianqing school had many dojos in Wuxia, and each of them had to have one. In addition, the Kunlun sect also had to have one. However, the Kunlun sect's array disc had a back door of the Soul Devourer's divine sense, which contained Jiang Tian's hidden Soul Devourer. Once the array disc was activated, the Soul Devourer could explode on its own. At that time, it could forcefully devour or enslave the divine souls of the Kunlun disciples without anyone noticing. Li Wuji, you old bastard. Thanks for reminding me. I'm not going to be a saint. I'm not going to work so hard to restore spirit chi. I'm going to let you guys take advantage of me for nothing. After Jiang Tian finished, his eyes suddenly lit up. In for a penny, in for a pound. He might as well build a back door that hid the Soul Devourer's divine sense in the 9 dragons guiding array discs. At that time, any spirit chi that was emitted through the 9 dragons guiding array discs would hide a Soul Devourer. If Jiang Tian wanted to kill and enslave these people, it would be a piece of cake. After doing all this, it was already 2 months later. All that was left was the installation and construction of the array. There were no weak soldiers under Jiang Tian's command. Perfected cultivator Hongye had received Jiang Tian's careful guidance and had received his true teachings. He had already perfected it and was competent. Li Wuji's invitation had already been delivered. Jiang Tian saw that Zhao Xueqing was in good spirits after being nourished by 3 spirit chi recovery seeds. He bid farewell to his family and rushed to Huaxia's Yanjing to meet up with Li Wuji. Then, they would pass through India's Death Hill and kill their way to West Earth. The last time he returned to Huaxia, Jiang Tian had only left in a hurry. This time, Jiang Tian returned to Linzhou City and Jinlin City first to see his friends and old friends. In Linzhou City, Jiang Tian only saw Yi Gufeng. As for Tang Wanyan and the others of the Tang family, Jiang Tian didn't see them. Now, he had already controlled a country and a sect and dominated the world. Their levels were too far apart and they didn't have any common topics to talk about. Everyone felt uncomfortable. After not seeing him for a long time, Yi Gufeng had also started to cultivate and had reached the late stage of the physique tempering stage. Yi Ziwei had probably taught him. Such a level of cultivation was nothing in the world of the top overlords, but basically, the international assassins and mercenaries couldn't do anything to him. Jiang Tian, you're here. Yi Gufeng, who was cultivating in the villa, was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped when he saw Jiang Tian. Next to him, Qiu Gong also kept rubbing his hands in joy. Next to him was a pair of children. They were both 3 or 4 years old and were playing with water guns on the lawn. "Yes, I'm here to see Uncle Yi." Jiang Tian smiled. Yi Gufeng was so excited that his body trembled. He invited Jiang Tian into the living room and asked his wife to serve tea to the guests. Strictly speaking, she was Yi Ziwei's stepmother. Back then, Yi Gufeng had abandoned his wife and daughter for her and his future. However, this was the first time Jiang Tian had met her. She was gentle and graceful. "There's no need for that. We can talk in the yard for a while." Jiang Tian waved his hand and refused. He sat down on a stone bench under the shade of a tree. Yi Gufeng's wife poured him some tea, bowed, and then silently left. Jiang Tian looked at the 2 children on the lawn and smiled. "These 2 children are quite cute. Uncle Yi, you're still young." "No, they are Zhou Zhenghao's children, Zhou Xiaonan and Zhou Xiaobei." Yi Gufeng sighed. "Why are they with you?" Jiang Tian asked. "Zhou Zhenghao had a bunch of girlfriends, but he never married. I don't know who gave birth to these 2 children. After he was killed by the adjudicator of the Holy See, all of his girlfriends wanted to split the family property." Yi Gufeng sighed and said, "But since it was against the law, I decided to uphold justice and gave them some money. Then they went their separate ways. However, no one wanted these 2 children. Their parents were already old, so I raised them." Jiang Tian sighed as well. If a powerful person or an organization wanted to rise up, it was inevitable that people would die. Even though Jiang Tian was an old man and tried his best to avoid it, sometimes he would lose sight of one thing and lose sight of another. Ahau used to be a crook. But after he followed you, he turned over a new leaf. Yi Gufeng sighed emotionally. Moreover, he's loyal and devoted to you, obeying your every command. Jiang Tian did not say anything. The truth was that he had only treated Dragon 5th, Zhou Zhenghao, Tang Wanyan, and the others because he wanted to use them. They were just a bunch of heroes. But now, Jiang Tian still felt a little sad. "Yeah." Qiu Gong sighed. "Actually, that adjudicator Sheng Ogu was trying to suppress me. If he hadn't said those words to protect your face, he wouldn't have died. By you." At this moment, the siblings ran over and pointed their guns at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tianxin waved his hand, and many water droplets floated in the air, spinning. The 2 children were stunned. Their watery eyes widened. "Magic! Amazing, Harry Potter." A bit old Harry Potter. This is your Uncle Jiang. Your dad told me about him." Yi Gufeng smiled. "Oh, Superman. The world's greatest Superman. Kung Fu." Zhou Xiaobei looked at Jiang Tian as if he had seen his idol. "No, he must be a fake. Superman always wears red underwear." Zhou Xiaonan said in a childish voice. Jiang Tian was speechless. Chapter 1080. But he can cast magic. So it's true. Zhou Xiaobei shouted, unconvinced. Jiang Tian flicked his finger, and water lines changed in the air. One moment it was a rabbit, the next it was a pony, and it could even run. The 2 children were shocked. "Do you want to learn?" Yes. The 2 children nodded vigorously, like chickens pecking at rice. "Teach the children well. Ahau's soul in heaven can rest in peace." Jiang Tian took out a set of 3 pure foundation establishment arts from his storage ring, and left behind dozens of pills to improve physique, and gave them to Yi Gufeng and Qiu Gongdao. Yi Gufeng and Qiu Gongdao solemnly agreed, and were even more grateful for Jiang Tian's benevolence. Jiang Tian declined the 2's request to entertain him as a host, and hurriedly left. Jiang Tian saw again. Shen Luanjing Li's family were doing well. In fact, Shen Li's talent was still unable to control Jiang Tian's many industries in the United States. He only served as an independent director, received dividends, and was a free and unfettered rich man. However, illness came like a landslide, and Zheng Jiushuan passed away. Guangxia Group had a new leadership, and Zheng Li was the president. Jiang Tian only looked at them from afar. It was good to have worldly happiness, and they didn't have to embark on the path of cultivation. After that, Jiang Tian went to Jinling again. Now Jiang Tian was finally living in Sidoni, so that Jiang Tian could rest assured. Cheng didn't need to protect him anymore. The father and son had returned to the northeast and became a powerful force. They were also the peripheral forces of Tianqing School in Wuxia. Tan Guangxu was still a civil servant, but he was already a deputy director. His development was good, and his future was bright. Su Ruoqing and Su Zhenlei had also completed the stage mission of protecting Jiang Zhixing and began to develop their own industries. Relying on Jiang Tian's protection, Su Zhenlei had become the most famous tyrant in the Yangtze River Delta, and his power was no less than Yi Wudao's in the past. Of course, Su Zhenlei wouldn't dare to act as rashly as Leaf Daodenier had done years ago. He wouldn't dare to violate the laws of the mortal world. After all, the Wuxia Martial Arts Alliance and the Long Formation Organization were Jiang Tian's men. He did not dare to cause trouble for Jiang Tian. Since the last trip to Hong Kong, Zhen Shuai had completely changed his mind. Although he failed to win Yuan Kerson's heart, he still found a gentle and virtuous woman to marry and have a child with. From afar, Jiang Tian watched the family having an outdoor barbecue in the courtyard of the villa. He did not disturb them and quietly left. Now, this kind of ordinary happiness was too far away from Jiang Tian. In fact, Jiang Tian's help to them might have come to an end. As long as they and their descendants did not run amok, in the future, they would gradually develop into a century-old distinguished clan. Jiang Chao, Jiang Bangxia, and the rest of the younger generation of the Jiang family had settled down in Sidoni. As for Jiang Qingfeng and those stubborn old guys, Jiang Tian did not bother to pay attention to them. After seeing that there were not many old friends in Jinlin City, Jiang Tian took a detour to Yanjin to meet Li Wuji. Soon, Jiang Tian's private jet landed at Yanjin International Airport. There were many old friends there, but Jiang Tian did not want to see them again. He took a Rolls-Royce Phantom from Zhang Yilin, who greeted him, and drove to the Wuxia Long Formation's base in the suburbs of Yanjin. As soon as he arrived at the base, Jiang Tian felt that something was not right. People came and went. There were soldiers, martial arts experts, sorcery experts, superpowered people, and even helicopters taking off and landing. Are you here to attend the ceremony of the Guardians Alliance? As soon as Jiang Tian got out of the car at the Long Formation's base, a handsome girl walked up to him. The ceremony of the Guardians Alliance? Jiang Tian was slightly taken aback. After hearing the girl's explanation, Jiang Tian finally understood. The officials of Wuxia had always kept pace with the times and adapted to changes. In the past, they only used martial arts and spellcasters as tools. Now, they supported them with great fanfare and placed them in a strategic core position, as if they were developing a large-scale industry. After all, they already knew that after the recovery of spirit qi, in addition to modern technology, this blue planet would open another door. The door of cultivation. In the future, humans would also face crueler competition. Now, the importance of super combat forces such as the Wuxia Long Formation, the Martial Arts Alliance, and the War Dragon in the military had been raised to an unprecedented level. In the battle against the Brahmin and the Holy See, the Wuxia Long Formation had lost many experts, including captains, commanders, and even the 4 spiritual generals and the group of 8. Therefore, this time, under the leadership of the officials, the original Wuxia Long Formation, the current Wuxia Guardians Alliance, had expanded to tens of thousands of people and held a large martial arts competition. The Kunlun sect, the Wuxia Long Formation, the Martial Arts Alliance, and many reclusive royalty, as well as the outstanding figures in the military, all participated. They changed their name and formed the Wuxia Guardians Alliance. At present, the Guardians Alliance had selected new spiritual generals, troops, and many captains to deal with the possible recovery of spirit qi and the world of great changes. Jiang Tian came here only to meet up with Li Wuji. He didn't expect to run into a ceremony. If that was the case, wouldn't he meet many old friends? Thinking of this, a trace of hesitation appeared on Jiang Tian's face. "Senior, come in quickly. I'll take you to the training ground for the ceremony." The girl invited warmly. Jiang Tian took out the invitation, but the girl didn't take it. She waved her hand and said, "This time, the Kunlun sect issued an anonymous hero's invitation. Any martial Dao expert or person with special abilities could take part in it. Let's go. This showed the generosity of the Long formation. They opened the door widely and didn't hide anything. They weren't afraid of anyone sneaking in and causing trouble. After all, the Long formation was backed by the famous Kong Techu. Who dared to provoke him? But Jiang Tian nodded in agreement. At this time, he had an ordinary appearance. Although he looked handsome, he didn't have a divine appearance, so he probably wouldn't attract too much attention. It would be good to see those acquaintances from afar. Senior, my name is Chung Lulu. I was selected from the Jinling military district. I'm now a member of the 12th team of the Wuxia Long formation. What's your name? What sector you from? The little girl was very young and energetic. She had delicate features, but she was heroic and had the unique vigor of a soldier. I'm an overseas itinerant cultivator. My surname is Jiang. As for my sect, you wouldn't know even if I told you. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and didn't want to make it public. Cheng Lulu showed an understanding expression and didn't ask any more questions. After all, the month-long competition had already ended. All the outstanding contestants had been selected and were about to be awarded military ranks and positions. Jiang Tian obviously wasn't here to participate in the competition. He was probably an ordinary martial artist who wanted to broaden his horizons. Cheng Lulu thought as she introduced the Wuxia Long formation to Jiang Tian. She also expressed that she hoped that Jiang Tian would participate in the next selection. He still had a chance. Jiang Tian suddenly realized that she and Cheng Tian looked similar. She also had a good foundation. He couldn't help but be moved. He asked, "Do you have any soldiers in your family?" "My family is a military family. My sister is called Cheng Tian. She was a member of the Battle Dragon Legion and was taught by Kong Techu." She puffed out her chest and looked proud. As she spoke, her face suddenly darkened. Tears flickered in her beautiful eyes and she was about to cry. She said bitterly, "It's a pity that she has sacrificed herself." Cheng Tian, a member of the Battle Dragon Legion, had sacrificed herself in the battle to stop Xiao Bin, a Russian winter soldier. At that time, Jiang Tian was in seclusion in Southeast Asia and was too far away to help. He had always felt regretful about this. At that moment, Jiang Tian's impression of the girl who was always afraid of being slapped in the face but was also tenacious and fearless. Her face overlapped with the girl in front of him. It was as if a lifetime had passed. Jiang Tian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This was Wuxia. This was the demeanor of a Wuxia soldier. They weren't afraid of sacrifice or death. The wildfire couldn't burn them down and they would grow again when the spring breeze blew. When one person fell, more people would stand up. This kind of self-improvement and fearless spirit was the backbone of the Wuxia people. It was also the secret of Wuxia standing among the nations of the world. You are a martial artist. Then do you know Ying Su, Zhu Shaochen, Lady Wu, and Li Guangkou? Cheng Tian counted with her fingers and said, "They are the best players this time. They are so powerful. Almost all of them are at the divine realm. They have become the new 4 spiritual generals. I've heard of them." Jiang Tian nodded and then frowned. "But as far as I know, not all of the 4 spiritual generals were sacrificed, right? It seems that Vermilion Bird is still alive? But she can't beat Lady Wu, so she has to give up her position now." Cheng Tian explained and then said with a look of admiration, "Senior Ji Mushin of the Kunlun sect said that the capable will rise and the mediocre will fall. He wants to build a brand new Long formation. Now these members of the reclusive royalty have the opportunity to cultivate in the Kunlun sect. They have the triple identity of reclusive royalty, a disciple of the Kunlun sect, and a general of the Guardians League. Li Wuji, that old guy, is so fast? Changing the bird? In the future, the Guardians League will really be run by your family." Jiang Tian smiled faintly, but he snorted coldly in his heart. Chapter 1081. That's right. You are an itinerant cultivator from overseas. It's normal that you don't know about Hua Xia's reclusive royalty. Then you should know Situ Shao, right? I heard that he is Kong Teichu's disciple. I am a loyal fan of Kong Teichu. Cheng Tian asked curiously. Well, I know him. Jiang Tian rubbed his nose and said, Chen Lulu, didn't I ask you to pick up the host of Huangjue Temple at the airport? Why are you still here? While he was talking, a girl in a Daoist robe walked toward them. There were 2 small words embroidered on her chest, Kunlun. She had a tall figure, a pretty appearance, a tall chest, and a slender waist. But her gaze was sharp like a blade, and a strand of the formidable pressure of a god-rank realm expert emanated from her, causing others to instantly feel apprehensive in their hearts and feel fear. She was born in Kunlun and was an immortal state overlord. She was only in her 20s and she was beautiful. She might even outshine the old vermilion bird. This senior is an itinerant cultivator from overseas. He knows Sidu Shao. I saw that he was Lu Sheng and wanted to take him to the hall. Sure enough, Cheng Lulu's imposing manner weakened by 30%, and she timidly mumbled. An itinerant cultivator from overseas? You know Situ Shao? Are you from the Hong sect? The female disciple of Kunlun asked arrogantly. Well, you can say that. Jiang Tian smiled and said. But the ceremony is about to start, and there are no more seats. Do you think you can stand and watch the ceremony? This Kunlun realm female disciple sized up Jiang Tian and said with some difficulty. Jiang Tian was indeed handsome. She didn't feel the powerful energy of a normal martial artist from Jiang Tian. She thought that he was just an ordinary cultivator and was only there to watch the ceremony. You are a female disciple of Kunlun. What's your name? You should know Yi Karen. What is her cultivation level now? Jiang Tian asked, declining to comment. His vision had gone beyond a country and a sect. He was involved in the competition between different worlds and the fate of the Earth's civilization. At his level, why would he be entangled with these little dolls? No matter what kind of achievements Ying Su and the others had made, in his eyes, they were not worth mentioning, just like passing clouds. My name is Yue. Yi Karen is our eldest senior sister. She has already surpassed the deity realm. This woman felt that Jiang Tian should have some background, so she didn't dare to offend him. Since you're my senior sister's friend, I'll arrange a seat for you in our Kunlun sect. What do you think? Yi Karen and I can't be considered friends. Jiang Tian gently shook his head. Yi Karen's grandfather was his disciple. She could only be considered his junior. Hearing those words, Yi Hui's face immediately turned cold. He was a little impatient and was too lazy to bother with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian instantly sent a voice transmission to Li Wuji in the depths of the encampment with his divine sense. I'm here to look for a friend. I've already informed him. He will come out to see me. There's no need to trouble him. With that, Jiang Tian turned around and left unhurriedly. His face was neither sad nor happy. He probably just heard of senior sister Ye's name, or he's her admirer. Oh, the ceremony has begun. Seeing this, Yi Hui didn't take Jiang Tian seriously. Hearing the applause in the training ground, she immediately left Jiang Tian aside and hurried over. Cheng Lulu accompanied Jiang Tian out and comforted Jiang Tian. Don't mind it. One day, you will be as powerful as them. You drove a Rolls-Royce Phantom here. It seems that you have some family background. The poor study while the rich practice martial arts. With money, you have a foundation. If you work hard, you will definitely be able to cultivate well. This old Rolls-Royce is my cousin's. Jiang Tian laughed and said. This time, Cheng Lulu didn't know how to respond. At that moment, Ying Su and the others were enjoying the admiration and cheers of the public. The country had placed high hopes on them. Not only could Jiang Tian not compare to them, but there were not many people in the world who could. Alright, you don't have to comfort me, little girl. I'm strong. Jiang Tian patted the girl's head and said with a smile. Can you give me your contact information? Cheng Lulu was still a little reluctant. For some reason, she felt that Jiang Tian's gaze was warm and tender. That kind of warm gaze had nothing to do with romance. It was more like a senior looking at a junior or a big brother looking at a little girl. Forget it. We'll meet again if fate wills it. Jiang Tian's words made Cheng Lulu feel a little disappointed, but then Jiang Tian said with a smile, "Here, I have a small gift for you." Jiang Tian put his hand into his pocket and pretended to rummage. Then he took out a manual of the 3 pure foundational arts and stuffed it into the girl's hand. "Cultivate it yourself. Don't teach it to others. You must follow my example and surpass me." Then he floated away. A few minutes later, Jiang Tian went to a tea house near the base. He drank tea while waiting for Li Wuji's arrival. Whether it was the reclusive royalty or the Kunlun sect, they were not under his direct control. The Kunlun sect even wanted to compete with him. Ji Muxian had even begun to substantially weaken the power of the Wuxia Long formation. However, Jiang Tian still planned to give them a chance. After all, it was not easy for those orthodoxies and descendants to survive until now. They were also the crystallization of the cultivation civilization of the ancient Wuxia. Now, almost all the famous mountains and orthodoxies were on the verge of extinction. Moreover, in the face of a great enemy, humans should be united. As long as there was a chance to save them, Jiang Tian would not kill them. Of course, if they refused to come to their senses, Jiang Tian would not be merciful. Jiang Tian had just left. There was a burst of enthusiastic applause in the training ground. The Kunlun sect leader, Ji Muxian, announced the winners one by one. Ying Su, Li Quangkol, Zhu Shaochen, Lady Wu, and the others had become the new 4 spiritual generals of the Long formation. Many of them would also have the opportunity to cultivate in Kunlun. Chao Shixiang also represented the higher-ups of Wuxia to congratulate them for resisting the invasion of the Brahmin and the Holy See at the Lansang River. Ying Su and the others walked onto the stage. Their faces were filled with brilliant light, and their eyes were filled with pride. The military representative Chao Shixiang, the Kunlun sect leader, Ji Muxian, and the leader of the Long formation, Yi Zhantian, issued them certificates and wore the insignia of the Long formation and the Kunlun sect. The Kunlun sect was a real paradise that had produced countless overlords. For example, the most powerful overlord in Wuxia, Yi Tianren, used to be their world wayfarer. The ancestors of Zhu Shaochen and the others had the help of the ruins of immortality and the multidimensional worlds to establish dynasties and left a rich mark in the history books. But in the Age of Doom, they were not as good as they used to be and were even excluded by the government. But from now on, things were different. The world was about to change, and they were about to step onto the stage of history and become the mainstay of Wuxia, writing a new chapter. Ying Su, I heard that he has surpassed the immortal state at such a young age, and he is practicing a completely different Dharma access. He was the one who led the reclusive royalty to stop the invaders of the Holy See and the Brahmin at the Lansang River. Zhu Shaochen is also amazing. He is a disciple of the Huangjue Temple. The strength of the Huangjue Temple is actually not inferior to the semi-hidden sects like Wudong and Shu Mountain. It's just that they are a royal temple, so they don't show their strength. Li Quangkol is so handsome. He is indeed a descendant of the Tang dynasty's royal family. I heard that Lady Wu is worth tens of billions. The moon in the sky group belongs to her family. Legend has it that she is a descendant of Wu Zetian. The royal family is indeed the royal family. They have a deep heritage. Ordinary people can't compare to them. At that moment, many overlords below the stage looked at the people on the stage with excitement and envy. Especially many female martial artists. Their eyes were shining, and their full breasts were heaving violently. They were like fanatical little fangirls who saw their idol. Surpassing the immortal state, becoming a tyrant, reaching the top of the Wuxia overlords list, and protecting the country were the lifelong goals of many martial artists. And they had achieved it at such a young age. At the entrance of the training ground, Cheng Lulu's eyes lit up after seeing Jiang Tian's Dharma access. She could not believe it. It was a completely different cultivation system, and it seemed to be more advanced than many of the Dharma access techniques she had seen before. He's an expert. Cheng Lulu was suddenly shocked and muttered, an overseas itinerant cultivator who knows Situ Shao and Yi Karen. It can't be him, right? Thinking of this, she was so excited that her whole body trembled. She immediately ran to the training ground and found Yi Karen, who was watching the ceremony in the front row below the stage. Yi Karen was wearing a red Daoist robe. She looked even more radiant and dazzling than before. In fact, the Kunlun sect was a cultivation dharma access technique. Although the inheritance was incomplete, Yi Karen had already changed from ancient martial arts to cultivation and reached the first level of foundation establishment. She was the first genius disciple in the Kunlun sect to step into foundation establishment before the age of 30 in hundreds of years. "Senior Sister Karen," Cheng Lulu said in a trembling voice, "I think I saw someone just now. I think it was Kong Teichu?" Yi Karen's beautiful eyes lit up. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and then she exclaimed in a low voice, "It can't be. He's already back. He's back from the heavenly dimension. Come with me to report to the Grandmaster." Chapter 1082. Jiang Tian had returned from killing enemies in the heavenly realm. Only the heads of the various countries and the top higher-ups knew about it. Many people thought that Jiang Tian might have died in the heavenly realm. When Yi Karen heard the news, she immediately understood that Jiang Tian might have taken over the heavenly realm and become the ruler of the world. This was a big news. How could she not be excited and shocked? Disciple greets Grandmaster. Yi Karen hurriedly left the venue with Cheng Lulu and saw Li Wuji standing outside the door with his hands behind his back, as if waiting for someone. She immediately bowed. Disciple greets the former sect leader of the Kunlun sect. Cheng Lulu was even more nervous and uneasy. In her eyes, he was like a living immortal. Li Wuji's face was calm as he said slowly, "Kong Teichu has arrived. He is now at the Qingxi tea house. Let's go see him." After saying that, he soared into the sky. "Yes." Yi Karen's face was slightly shocked. She released her flying sword and stepped on it. With a swoosh, she disappeared into the sky. "Oh my God, Kunlun is really powerful. That flying sword, that movement technique, it's really like a god. Oh my God, he is really Kong Teichu. He even gave me a set of cultivation techniques." Cheng Tiantian was so excited that her soul was shaking. She couldn't even stand steadily. But after a while, she understood. Jiang Tian must have helped her because she was her sister and Cheng Tiantian was once his disciple. "Sai, my sister once said that Kong Teichu was very cold. After the training with Battle Dragon, he didn't let them call him master anymore. Now it seems that he is actually very warm. Yes, after my sister died, the charity fund of the Medicine King Group, Old Master Jiang Changging, once gave my family hundreds of thousands of yuan to treat my old and sick parents, buy a house, and hire a nanny." Cheng Lulu clenched the cultivation technique book tightly in her hand and murmured, "Moreover, it is said that he is extremely vicious and will kill people and destroy countries. In fact, he is very warm. He even touched my head. Cheng Lulu, you must work hard to cultivate and protect Wuxia. You can't let him down." Cheng Lulu's clear and beautiful eyes flickered with tears, but her gaze was incomparably firm. Jiang Tian soon met up with Li Wuji and Yi Karen. Disciple greets Immortal Master Jiang. Yi Karen bowed deeply, but her pair of beautiful shining eyes looked up, sizing up Jiang Tian. Her feelings toward Jiang Tian were very complicated. She was in awe and respect at the same time. She was a very proud person. In the past, she had thought that she could surpass Jiang Tian if she joined Kunlun. But now, Jiang Tian was already a person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the former Kunlun supreme leader. Even if Ji Muxian saw him, he would have to lower his head and bow to show his respect, for fear of neglecting him. After all, Jiang Tian had already conquered two-dimensional worlds. Before this was something that no one dared to even think about. It had only been a few years, but it felt like a lifetime had passed. "Get up." Jiang Tian chuckled and then looked at Li Wuji with a smile. "Fellow Daoist Wuji, you are very lucky to have such a talented disciple." "Envious?" Li Wuji acted as if he was meeting an old friend and didn't feel distant at all. He sat down opposite Jiang Tian and said with a smile, If you are envious, you can take her in as your disciple. This penniless Daoist still needs to thank you. Jiang Tian didn't comment and said indifferently, in my opinion, on this trip to West Earth, reclusive royalty should also bring a few people along. Jiang Tian knew that Li Wuji might have ulterior motives, but he still planned to give him a chance. He also hoped that the reclusive royalty would realize how strong he was and strengthen his confidence so that he wouldn't be easily bewitched by Li Wuji. Speed is crucial in war. If we bring too many people, we won't be able to protect ourselves and will instead be troublesome. Li Wuji frowned. Jiang Tian smiled and insisted. I think Lady Wu is not bad. Li Wuji smiled bitterly and could only nod. While Jiang Tian was drinking tea and chatting with Li Wuji and Yi Karen at the Qingxi Tea House, in the Guiyan Lake Clubhouse not far from the Huaxia Long Formation Base, Ying Su, Li Guangkol, Lady Wu, Zhu Shaoqun, and other members of the royal family gathered there. Many high-ranking officials and financial group leaders accompanied them. Everyone who was participating in this ceremony was called over. Even service and logistics personnel like Yi Yue and Cheng Lulu were invited to participate. As for Ji Muxian, Yingying Laozu, the old monk of Huangjue Temple, and the others, they had noble statuses and seniority, so they didn't participate. It could be said that this was a gathering of the most outstanding and powerful young people in Huaxia other than Tianqing School. However, even if Ying Su had surpassed the immortal state, he wasn't the strongest among them. The most powerful were the elite disciples of the Kunlun sect. Among them, there was a slender and handsome young man who attracted a lot of attention. He had already reached the first level of the foundation establishment. He was the senior brother of the Kunlun sect and Ji Muxian's son, Ji Mingchuan. Yue, invite Yi Karen here. Ji Mingchuan sat in the middle and said with a smile. But Yi Yue quickly took out his phone. A few female disciples beside her revealed looks of jealousy. Ji Mingchuan might become the sect master in the future, but he had always liked Yi Karen and turned a blind eye to the other junior sisters. Ha, Yue, you're really something. You're using the latest Apple phone. Ji Mingchuan laughed. Yi Yue smiled awkwardly and started to talk to Yi Karen. Young people were very adaptable. They used to live in the dimension world formed by the array and cultivated in seclusion. They didn't even touch a mobile phone or a computer. After coming out of seclusion, they realized the richness of the mortal world. They learned how to use a mobile phone and a computer in an instant, and they all had different hairstyles and styles. When Ji Mingchuan was outside, he would wear a custom-made Armani suit. Yi Yue also took off his Taoist robe. His current appearance was no different from the fashionable girls in the modern city. Senior brother, the mortal world may be filthy, but gadgets like mobile phones and computers are very convenient. Next to him was a young man with an even more exaggerated appearance. His hair was dyed in all sorts of colors, making him look like a parrot. Coincidentally, his name was Ying Wu, so everyone gave him the nickname of Parrot. In fact, he was also a descendant of the royal Ying family and was Ying Su's cousin. He had been cultivating in the Kunlun sect since he was young. Ying Su, you did well this time. Senior Muxian personally taught you a technique. Your future is limitless. Zhu Shaoqun said enviously. You did well too. You have an elder's personal disciple. Ying Su smiled, but there was still a trace of pride in the depths of his eyes. In the end, I can't compare to the personal disciple of the sect leader. Zhu Shaoqun said politely. Li Guangkol said, Zhu Shaoqun, you have to be content. I heard that the granddaughter of one of the founding fathers has taken a fancy to you. You can train in the Guardians Alliance and make meritorious contributions. With the support of your father-in-law, you will enter an important department of the country in the future. Maybe you will become a governor or even the central government. Now, the news that the world might change was no longer a secret in the top upper-class society of Huaxia. Promoted by high-ranking officials, invested by plutocrats, or guided by scholars, various research institutions popped up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain, such as the Preaching Research Institute, Bodhi Biology, and God-Making Technology. Those well-informed influential forces had already started to make arrangements for this matter, which was equivalent to a risky investment. Zhu Xiaoqin's political marriage was such a situation. Although the world's great changes sounded incredible and the probability of it being realized was slim, they had many influential families. However, the rich and powerful families had many descendants. If they pushed out a girl to marry him, they would be able to take the initiative in the future great changes in the world. This investment was also a small capital and a huge profit. Moreover, as the descendants of the great Ming dynasty's royal family, the Zhu family had a deep heritage and considerable assets. Any great historical change was like this. Most ordinary people and the commoners had no idea about the upcoming changes. However, the rich and powerful could rely on their advantage of information and resources. They were like ducks that knew when the spring water was warm. They could take advantage of all opportunities and stand firm. Zhu Xiaoqin smiled but said nothing. How was his ambition limited to this? If one day he ascended to the ruins of immortality, he would be able to transcend this world and become an immortal or a god. He would not exchange it for an emperor. However, he wouldn't say these words to anyone. Now, within Wuxia, those who understood the dimensional world had formed many factions and thoughts. One was the fantasy, hoping that the powerhouses of the ruins of immortality would descend and help Wuxia enter a new stage. The other was to divide the ruins of immortality and unite with the peace faction of the ruins of immortality to suppress the factions that intended to attack Earth. The most radical and extreme faction was Jiang Tian, who wanted to brandish a knife to the sky, blow up everything, and destroy the ruins of immortality. However, for now, Jiang Tian's thoughts were the mainstream. Besides, even if Jiang Tian personally held this view, Zhu Xiaoqin did not dare to say it out loud. If it reached the ears of Tianqing school, wouldn't he be trampled to death by Jiang Tian and his disciples? Jiang Taichu is nothing more than a vicious and merciless man who has seized many cultivation resources. However, the Kunlun sect has a deep foundation. I'm afraid it has more than the Holy See and Brahmin combined. After I enter, I might be able to catch up to him after 10 or 20 years of hard work. It would be even better if I could contact the ruins of immortality. Zhu Xiaoqin's ambition was fierce, and the muscles on his shoe-shaped face twitched slightly, looking very determined. Chapter 1083. Among the crowd, only the martial demon Yang had an awkward expression on her face. She seemed unhappy. Cheng Lulu didn't understand. She pulled a colleague aside and asked, "She's the new vermilion bird. Why didn't she go?" That colleague said, "She made one wrong move," and so on. She was too close to Kong Teichu, so she didn't have the chance to enter the Kunlun sect. Remember that. The cultivation world of Wuxia will be very complicated in the future. You must follow the most powerful person closely. Cheng Lulu didn't quite understand. At this time, Yi Wei's right hand slipped and his phone fell to the ground. His face was pale. "Senior Sister Yi, even if you dropped your phone, you don't have to be so sad, right?" Zhu Xiaoqin said with a smile. "Yi Karen, she's not coming," Yi Wei said with a trembling voice. Ji Mingchuan's face darkened. A trace of hatred flashed in his eyes, but he didn't explode. Next to him, a beautiful junior sister comforted him. "It's okay if she's not coming. Maybe we can meet tonight." Ji Mingchuan asked, "Who's with her? Why isn't she coming?" Ying Wu asked from the side. "She has guests to accompany. She told us to eat by ourselves." Yi Hui replied with a dull look. What kind of friend is more important than eldest senior brother Ji Mingchuan? Ying Wu said half flatteringly and half unhappily. In Wuxia, who among the younger generation can compare to our eldest senior brother in terms of status and strength? Beside him, everyone laughed loudly and echoed his words. "Zhang, Cultivate," Yi Hui said in shock. As soon as the name came out, it seemed to be magical. In an instant, the spacious room became silent. Many people's faces were filled with horror, shock, and horror. Ying Su asked in disbelief. "Cultivate," Yi Hui said dejectedly. "He just came to the base, but he hid his identity. Cheng Lulu and I didn't recognize him." This time, no one said anything. Everyone present more or less had some relationship with Jiang Tian. He came back alive. He took down another arcane realm. Zhu Xiaoqin's smile was uglier than his crying face. It can't be a lie. It's not that easy to take down the heavenly realm. Li Guangkou also couldn't believe it. The experts of the dimensional world were high and mighty like gods. Once they stepped into the dimensional world, they would be able to flatten the entire earth. Throughout history, even their ancestors had been manipulated by the multidimensional worlds like puppets. As for the Kingdom of Heaven, it was said to be the legendary heaven. Its full name was the Kingdom of Heaven's Sacred Hall. The Holy See, which had been glorious for 2,000 years, was merely their preacher in the human world. They didn't even dare to imagine how powerful the Heavenly Kingdom's dimensional world was. It was probably second only to the ruins of immortality. But now, he had gone, and he had returned alive. Yes. Maybe Karen is just joking, a female disciple on the side said. She felt that Kong Teichu was a huge shadow that could cover the sky. The moment his name was mentioned, even the radiant Ji Mingchuan's face darkened, and his eyes turned gloomy. It should be him. At this time, Cheng Lulu said timidly, he talked to me and said he knew Yi Karen. He also asked about my sister. Oh, my sister is Cheng Tian. She used to serve in the War Dragon Army. She's his unofficial disciple. It's really him. After the exclamation, the whole place was dead silent. Everyone kept their mouths shut. Even Ji Mingchuan didn't dare to say a word. Kong Teichu, the man who destroyed 2 major Brahmin orthodoxies of the Holy See and crushed the European reclusive royalty, came back. I think I understand why Yi Karen didn't find a boyfriend. I'm afraid it's not as simple as being obsessed with cultivation. Lady Wu suddenly said with a faint smile. Ji Mingchuan's face was gloomy, but he didn't say a word and drank the wine in his cup. Zhu Xiaoqin was Ji Mingchuan's lackey. He grinned and said, Lady Wu, you don't seem to know how to talk. You're not even a Kunlun disciple. You don't have the qualifications to participate in this gathering. Get out. I can leave. But please take back your words. Madame Martial Demon stood up, her berserk aura erupting as she said coldly. Hey, do you want to fight with me? This place is too small. Get out. Zhu Xiaoqin also looked arrogant. Now that he was a Kunlun disciple, he thought he had a backer and didn't put Lady Wu in his eyes. The martial demon Yang was about to step out and fight him. Yu Hui immediately said, Lady Wu, Kong Teichu invited you to Qingxi Tea House. It seems he has a mission for you. As soon as he said this, Zhu Xiaoqin suddenly froze on the spot. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. His face was pale. He couldn't go out and fight, nor could he sit down. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Damn it. Yi Wei, what do you want to say? Can't you say it all in one breath? Zhu Xiaoqin, do you still dare to fight with me now? Lady Wu sneered. How could Zhu Xiaoqin dare? He wouldn't dare even if he had 100 guts. Lady Wu was the person that Jiang Tian wanted. Even if Lady Wu stood there motionless, Zhu Xiaoqin wouldn't dare to touch her. Otherwise, he would end up like the Jin family. His entire family would be exterminated and not even a chicken or dog would be left alive. Zhu Xiaoqin, sit down. We're all Huaxia's reclusive royalty. Why do you have to be unhappy? Yingwu laughed and helped him out. Zhu Xiaoqin sat down and said with a forced smile, Lady Wu, I'm just joking with you. Why are you so agitated? It's not easy for you to find a boyfriend with your hot temper. After Lady Wu left, except for Cheng Lulu, who was secretly happy and excited, this gathering suddenly became dull and boring to everyone. Everyone's hearts were heavy, as if a big stone was pressing down on them. It was difficult for them to breathe. Seeing this, Cheng Lulu was puzzled. She asked boldly, Isn't Kong Teichu at the same level as you? Is he more powerful than you? Kong Teichu is much more powerful than us. They're not at the same level at all. Li Guangkou drank a glass of wine. He was drunk and hazy. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. He's the ruler of the 3 realms. He's like a dragon in the sky. We're just a bunch of ants compared to him. We're just fighting for a few grains of rice. Hearing that Jiang Tian had returned, Zhu Xiaoqian's hot blood turned colder than a pile of cow dung in winter. His face was full of dejection and bleakness. He said sadly, "He actually obtained another realm. I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up to him even if we chase him for another 100 years or even 1,000 years. Ji Muxian once said that the Kunlun sect will guide the recovery of spirit qi. When the time comes, it will be a chaotic era where heroes rise together. I might be able to catch up to Kong Teichu." Among the many descendants of the royal family, only Yingsu had a resolute face. A trace of fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. A thought emerged in his mind. Jiang Tian's back as he passed through the gate of holy light and ascended to the sky was too dazzling. It covered the sun in his world and made a shadow appear in his heart. It shrouded the world and made him unable to see the sun. Only when I surpass Kong Teichu will the shadow in my heart fade away. Although he knew that his hope was extremely slim. Chapter 1084. While Yingsu and the others were still having a gathering, Lady Wu had already arrived at Jiang Tian's side. "Immortal Master Jiang, may I know why you called for an outsider like me?" When Lady Wu saw Jiang Tian, she bowed respectfully but still forced a joke. Her personality was originally carefree and unrestrained. However, when she saw Jiang Tian, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. After all, the person in front of her was a great demon who could easily kill tens of thousands of people and stop at nothing. Outsider was what Jiang Tian had called her when he first met her at the Lansang River. She used it to mock Jiang Tian because of her personality. However, she definitely wouldn't dare to call Jiang Tian little brother and call herself big sister anymore. "We're going to West Earth," Jiang Tian said. "I'll bring you along." West Earth? The dimensional world. Lady Wu's eyes were filled with shock. "But there's a dimensional passage there. Do you have a way to open it?" When Jiang Tian went to Star World, he caught them off guard and took down the Heavenly Transcendence Nunnery, snatching the array pestle to activate it. The second time he went to the Heavenly State Mystic Realm was because the so-called True God had already opened the light teleportation door. But now, the Death Hill had returned to silence. There had been no movement for several months, which meant that the teleportation door to West Earth had been closed. Moreover, the Death Hill might be a one-way teleportation door that couldn't reach West Earth at all. "It's fine," Jiang Tian said calmly. "I naturally have a way to open it." Under Jiang Tian's orders, Chao Shixiang immediately instructed the military to send a helicopter to pick them up. Then, the four of them boarded Jiang Tian's private plane and went straight to the Death Hill in India. After boarding Jiang Tian's private plane, Lady Wu couldn't help but sigh. Immortal Master Jiang is really good at enjoying life. Her assets were also considered huge. The Sun and Moon Corporation was one of the top 10 invisible tycoons in Wuxia, but compared to Jiang Tian, it paled in comparison. At this moment, Yi Karen interrupted. "Immortal Master Jiang, how's the situation in West Earth? Are you really confident in taking it down?" Yi Karen was already considered an elite disciple and had the opportunity to interact directly with senior experts like Li Wuji and Ji Muxian. From their conversation, West Earth was abnormally powerful. Experts were as common as clouds, and they were unshakable. Yi Karen's ears were almost worn out. Even though she was naturally proud and unyielding at this moment, she still felt a little uncertain. There was nothing he could do about it. This was a completely different world. West Earth is a fragment from the Southeast Asian era of ancient Earth. Its area is equivalent to 2 Wuxias. It has a population of more than 1 billion, more than 10 countries of various sizes, and hundreds of cities. It is an important place for Buddhism. The Changsheng sect, which stands behind the Brahmin, is only ranked 5th there. Currently, the most powerful forces in West Earth are the Golden Rock Temple on Mount Lain, the Fire Worship sect in Fenshan Valley, the Tingyu Tower on Azure Mountain, the Hahuan sect on Chonglu Mountain, and so on. Jiang Tian said unhurriedly. This information was obtained from Kasayapa Guru's mind. At this moment, he didn't hide anything. Important place for Buddhism? There are very few top-notch Buddhist cultivators in Wuxia. Yi Karen cried out in alarm. Jiang Tian smiled slightly and didn't comment. In fact, although Buddhist cultivators were inferior to cultivators in the universe, it was also a great cultivation tradition. There were also thousands of Buddhas in this world, his world, and the boundless worlds. The theories and paths of cultivation were even more varied. Especially in resisting calamities and temptations, there were even more innovative ways. Buddhist cultivators had great divine powers and immeasurable merit. They could form sariras through precepts and wisdom, which were completely different from the golden core formed by the essence, qi, and spirit of cultivators. However, they had wisdom, energy, psychokinesis, and merit. They could even form a golden body and many dharma forms. They could compete with the top cultivators. Suddenly, Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist Wuji, I used to think that the legends and legends of the ancient times were all made up. But now, I feel that many legends at least have a prototype, and they aren't groundless." "Why do you say that, fellow Daoist Taichu?" Li Wuji asked in surprise. Jiang Tian sipped his red wine and said, "In the world of heaven, I saw the descendants of the great shaman Ho-Yi from the Qiong clan." What? As soon as these words came out, Lady Wu and Yi Karen were shocked. "Fellow Daoist Tai Chu, the legends of immortals are illusory. I think that we should be down to earth, based on earth, and work hard to improve. Don't have any illusions." Li Wuji smiled and said, "How can you be so sure that they must be the descendants of the great shaman Ho-Yi? In short, can someone say that he is the descendant of the great shaman and that he can deduce the existence of Ho-Yi and many ancient true gods?" Jiang Tian said, "I'm just thinking that if many myths and legends are true, then your Kunlun sect is the legendary home of the gods and also the Daoist sect of the Taishang Laojun, one of the three pure ones. And the heavenly court of the Dao sects is also rumored to be in the ruins of immortality. You can't be related to the ruins of immortality and the heavenly court, right? Immortal Master Jiang, you must be joking." Li Wuji's face stiffened and he smiled. "These myths and legends are all deduced by the Dao sects themselves. How can you take them seriously? I only know that our Kunlun sect was born in the Pre-Qin dynasty. After the ups and downs of history and continuous wars, the inheritance is intermittent. I don't even know who the ancestor is. How can it be related to the ruins of immortality?" "That's good." Jiang Tian chuckled and said meaningfully, "Even if you have the ruins of immortality as your backing, it is inevitable that you will be controlled and ordered by others. To put it bluntly, you are like a lackey. Let's not talk about it. What we cultivators pursue is to roam the world and seek freedom, liberation, and perfection. Even if you are an ordinary person, you should be able to do whatever you want. You should not be afraid of power or experts, and you should not be stuck in things. Being an indomitable mortal is better than being a lackey of the heavenly court's ruins of immortality, don't you think so?" What fellow Daoist Tai Chu said makes sense. Li Wuji bowed slightly and looked very humble. "Fellow Daoist Wuji, we are fortunate to fight side by side today. It is also a favor." Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist, it's best if you don't associate yourself with the ruins of immortality. Otherwise, don't blame me for falling out with you. I will kill all the henchmen of the ruins of immortality." "How is that possible?" Li Wuji forced a smile. "I just like to say the ugly things first." Jiang Tian chuckled and was just casually criticizing Li Wuji. If he didn't admit it, Jiang Tian wouldn't force him. Lady Wu asked worriedly, "There are many overlords in West Earth. How powerful are they?" Jiang Tian said calmly, "Almost all of the above sects have many perfected immortals." Perfected immortals? What level are they at? It was the first time Yi Karen had heard of such a thing. "Golden core," Jiang Tian said. "Immortal Master Jiang, are you confident? It's not just a golden core." Yi Karen had heard about the golden core from Yi Tianren in his sect. It was much more powerful than his grandpa and Li Wuji. His expression changed. "It's okay." Jiang Tian smiled confidently and said, "In less than 3 months, we will definitely be able to destroy the Changshan sect and suppress West Earth. Hearing that, Yi Karen and Lady Wu were shocked. Even Li Wuji shook his head and smiled wryly. Jiang Tian's words were too full of himself. How could it be so easy to fight in this world? While they were talking, Jiang Tian's plane had arrived above the Death Hill. Jiang Tian asked the pilot to hover the plane a few hundred meters above and then jumped down and landed. Although Li Wuji, Lady Wu and Yi Karen weren't as powerful as Jiang Tian, this height was nothing for them, so they followed suit. Master. Seeing Jiang Tian and the others arrive, Tang Linglong quickly ran out of the barracks and came to Jiang Tian, bowing respectfully. Tang Linglong's skin was tanned, but he looked energetic. Ever since the Death Hill broke out and the 3 West Earth Masters invaded Earth, he had been leading an army of 300,000 soldiers to the Death Hill, waiting for the arrival of the Masters to kill them immediately. At this time, Jiang Tian was dressed in white and his face was glowing. He had a righteous aura. She was amazed. It seemed that Master had gained a lot of benefits from the battle in the Heavenly Kingdom and had made some progress. Well done in the battle against the Masters of West Earth. Jiang Tian smiled and glanced at Tang Linglong. Although she wasn't a spirit body and couldn't use many wood magic skills like Huang Linger, she had a good comprehension ability and her cultivation had already reached the first level of the foundation establishment. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to resist the last adjudicator of the Holy See, Saint Ogu, in the Shu Mountain Daoist sect. Is that so, Master? It's all because of Master. The Kuelian is too domineering. You can kill them with one shot. After receiving Jiang Tian's praise, Tang Linglong's heart was sweeter than honey. She felt that all her hard work over the years was worth it. She proudly puffed out her chest and said proudly, Golden Core and Nascent Soul Masters, just come. As long as the Kuelian is here, they will all die. On the side, Li Wuji smiled enviously and said, Tai Chu Daoist friend, all the talents in the world have achieved something. I'm so envious. Chapter 1085. Jiang Tian frowned and thought, a Kuelian might be able to kill a golden core cultivator, but not a nascent soul cultivator. He said calmly, Linglong, don't be rash. This is Li Wuji, the former sect master of the Kunlun sect. This is Yi Karen, an elite disciple of the sect. You've met Lady Wu. Why don't you greet them? Tang Linglong stuck out her tongue and hurriedly bowed. Junior greets Senior Wuji and fellow Daoist Yi. Li Wuji waved his hand and asked her to get up. Yi Karen also bowed and said, Linglong, you've reached the first level of the foundation establishment. Congratulations. She had already entered the immortal state when Jiang Tian fought with Zhang Qianlei, much earlier than Tang Linglong. However, Tang Linglong had caught up with her and her cultivation was higher than hers. This made her secretly admire Tang Linglong, but at the same time, she also had mixed feelings. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian would be able to control a country and a sect and dominate the world? The Tianqing school had also defeated the Holy See and the Brahmin to become an unparalleled sect that could compete with the Kunlun sect. But at this time, looking at Tang Linglong's cultivation level, the Tianqing school was even better than the Kunlun sect in terms of talent and inheritance. Yi Karen, your grandfather Yi Tianren is my senior brother. According to seniority, you should call me Martial Aunt. Tang Linglong said proudly as she raised her eyebrows, feeling smug in her heart. Back then, she was just a member of the Battle Dragon team and was below Chao Shixiang and Tang Hongtu. After she killed the East Sea Fleet, she was expelled from the army and became a criminal. At that time, Yi Karen was already a member of the Condor team and was on par with Beidasheng. She could only look up to the top martial artist of the young generation in Wuxia. Now, she was the sect master of the Amei Daoist sect of the Tianqing school and Yi Tianren's junior sister. He represented Sidoni and was one of the people in charge of the Earth Defense Alliance. Even if Chao Shixiang and Yi Tianren met her, they would have to treat her as an equal and would not dare to order her around. There was a reason for Tang Linglong's half-joking teasing. Back then, outside the East China Sea of Wuxia, she had cut down the Japanese ships Aodao and Dashan with her sword. It was the Condor team who had made things difficult for her and expelled her from the active service. They had even forced Jiang Tian to go to Japan to be punished as a disciple. In fact, this matter was led by Bai Diqing, the eldest son of the Bai family, a martial arts family in Yanjing. It had nothing to do with Yi Karen, but Tang Linglong didn't like her at first sight. Now that she had Jiang Tian as her backer, she was like a fox exploiting the tiger's might. Although she couldn't fight, she couldn't avoid a few words of sarcasm. Tang Linglong, do you want to compete with me? Yi Karen's eyes turned cold and murderous. This sword is called the Sun-Shrouding Sword. Let's see what Tianqing School is capable of. Suddenly, the sword chi exploded. There was a swoosh. Yi Karen jumped out of the scabbard with a long sword on her back. The moment the sword appeared, the sun in the sky dimmed. The sword let out a wild howl and charged towards Tang Linglong. The sword was as fast as lightning. The distance between the two of them was only a few meters. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Tang Linglong. "You're so fierce, you brat." Tang Linglong scowled. She pulled out the finger bone dagger and blocked the attack. There was a series of clanging sounds. It sounded like rain hitting banana leaves. Sparks flew everywhere. Tang Linglong was forced to retreat. "What are you guys doing? The enemy is right in front of you, and you're venting your anger on such a trivial matter." Lady Wu wanted to step forward and persuade them. However, after taking a few steps, she felt that her skin was about to split open. She was forced to retreat by the sword chi. It was obvious that Yi Karen had the upper hand. She could suppress Tang Linglong and Lady Wu. Very good. Kunlun also cultivates true essence. Although it's not a top cultivation method, it's already very condensed. It's far better than a martial artist's true essence. Jiang Tian's face was as calm as still water. His heart skipped a beat. "Alright, don't throw a tantrum and make a fool of yourself in front of Tai Chu." Li Wuji smiled and raised his right hand. A vast amount of true core strength pressed down gently, and the two of them were suddenly confined. "Humph, let's meet in private next time. We'll find a corner and have a good chat." Tang Linglong knew that she was no match for Yi Karen, so she could only retreat. However, she was not weak with her words. Yi Karen's pretty face was slightly cold. She sneered disdainfully and ignored her. She put her sword back into the scabbard. "It's just a draw. What are you so proud of?" Tang Linglong snorted coldly. She was not weaker than Yi Karen. However, suddenly, cracks appeared on the finger bone dagger in her hand. Then, it cracked and fell to the ground with a clatter. The finger bone dagger used by Tang Linglong was obtained by Jiang Tian from the treasury of the Dark Parliament. In essence, it came from the Holy See. No one knew which powerful race it was. After Jiang Tian refined it, it became a spirit treasure. Zhao Xueqing had used it for a period of time before. During the Dark Parliament, Zhao Xueqing gave it to her at the Cass River. She had always treasured it very much. She had also used this finger bone dagger to kill a blood ancestor named Cage in the Tulip Mansion in London, England. She had made a name for herself in the international community. Seeing this, Tang Linglong's eyes immediately turned red and she exclaimed, "Yi Karen! You give me back my treasure." This spirit treasure dagger was made by Jiang Tian himself. Tang Linglong always kept it with her. Now that it was broken, she couldn't accept it. "You're not as good as me. I broke your weapon, and you want me to return it to you. If I kill you, can you make me pay with my life?" Yi Karen said mockingly. "Don't be so arrogant. One day, I will trample you under my feet." Tang Linglong was speechless. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "Well, Linglong, don't be so sad. We don't lack this kind of treasure." He patted the sky-devouring magic gourd at his waist, and a sword flew out. "Master, what sword is this?" Tang Linglong was ecstatic when she saw it. This treasured sword was like a piece of sparkling and translucent jade, emitting a blazing light. Even from far away, one could feel a sense of heat. However, it was exceptionally sharp. Just by looking at it, one could tell that it was much stronger than the finger bone dagger. This is a flying sword I made with the rib bone of the most powerful divine ancestor in the heavenly kingdom dimension. It contains the power of light and surging fire energy. It can be considered a spiritual level treasure. It fits your fiery and hot-tempered personality. If you must name it, I'll call it the Blazing Bone Sword. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. This sword floated in the air in front of Tang Linglong. Tang Linglong grabbed the hilt and waved her hand. A white arc of light about 100 meters long slashed down. Clang, bam. Beside him, the 3 tanks had been cut into 2. The cut was smooth and smooth. On the ground, the granite melted into flowing water, and flames rose everywhere. What a sharp sword! This strange bone sword is extremely powerful. If it were placed in any sect or royal family, it would be considered a treasure of the sect. Seeing this scene, the martial demoness immediately revealed a look of envy, and even Yi Karen was slightly moved. Master, this sword is so powerful. Tang Linglong was overjoyed. She cheered and kissed Jiang Tian on the cheek. Sai, when I took you in as my disciple, you were already 20 years old. Now, you are 25 years old. You are already an old girl, but you are still not mature at all. Jiang Tian wiped the saliva on his face and sighed helplessly. Next to him, Yi Karen showed a trace of envy in her eyes. Her master was Ji Muxian, and she was also guided by Li Wuji and other seniors. Ji Muxian was already 50 years old, and Li Wuji and the others had long lives. Usually they were rigid and serious. Even if she was born with an unruly personality, she did not dare to mess with the rules of the sect. Every day, she trembled with fear and tread on thin ice. How could she be like Tang Linglong, who looked at Jiang Tian as if he was a big brother next door? Tang Linglong suddenly clapped her hands and said, "Oh right, this divine ancestor Blazing Bone is a living person, right? He should have more than 1 rib bone, there should be 24. What about the others? Give them all to me." Okay, I'll give them all to you. Jiang Tian smiled dotingly and patted the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Suddenly, whoosh, the remaining 23 flying swords all fell to the ground. Among Jiang Tian's many disciples, in terms of managing the sect's affairs, Tang Linglong was not as good as Sasaki Haisha and Shin Mange. She was meticulous in all aspects. In terms of cultivation talent, she was not as good as Ling. In terms of commanding battles and combat experience, she was not as good as Yi Tianren's 2 guardians and 3 personal disciples. But in any case, she was Jiang Tian's first disciple after he returned to this world. Wow, so many flying swords. I'm rich. They are much more powerful than the disposable flying swords you and Zhang Qianlei made before. Master has made a lot of gains in the world of heaven this time. Tang Linglong's eyes lit up, and she was overjoyed. Holding a pile of blazing bone swords, she suddenly looked embarrassed. She scrutinized Jiang Tian's face and said aggrievedly, "Master, you gave me so many blazing bone swords, but you didn't collect any magic weapons. I carry these flying swords like a hedgehog. I don't know how ugly I am." Jiang Tian pulled a long face and said angrily, "Stinky girl, you are so greedy. You are still thinking about Master's little gourd. You are more beautiful than you are." Master, the little gourd is your main storage magic weapon. Of course, I don't dare to think about it. Tang Linglong held Jiang Tian's arm and rubbed her full chest. She said fawningly, "But you don't need the storage ring, do you? I can't give it to you." This storage ring was originally a pair with Qingers. How could Jiang Tian give it to her? He shook his head and said, "I've already made the spine into a sword case. You can use this one." He patted the gourd again. A crystal bone about 1 meter long fell to the ground like a jade snake. Jiang Tian then made a hand seal. Suddenly, the blazing bone swords jumped up as if they were alive. They inserted themselves into the spine and kept shrinking. In the end, only the hilts were left outside. "It's useful." Tang Linglong was still very happy. She wrapped the sword box around her waist, making it look like a unique belt. Then she asked Jiang Tian for the method to control the sword box and the flying sword. Jiang Tian transmitted his immortal will and soon finished teaching. Jiang Tian said, "Okay. All right, I'm here to kill my way into the West Earth dimension through the Death Hill teleportation formation, annihilate the Changxing sect, suppress the Golden Rock Temple on Thunder Mountain, and steal their Qi revival seed." Jiang Tian was about to leave. Suddenly, Tang Linglong's satellite phone rang. She picked up a few words. Suddenly, her face changed color and she exclaimed, "Sasaki, what did you say?" "You have news about Master Zhang Qianlei?" Chapter 1086. Zhang Qianlei had fought side by side with Jiang Tian many times, and Jiang Tian valued him very much. He had been sparing no expense to investigate his whereabouts. Hearing this, Jiang Tian immediately took the satellite phone from Tang Linglong and asked anxiously, "Sasaki, have you found Zhang Qianlei's tracks? Where is he?" Jiang Tian's intelligence agency could be said to be one of the best in the world. Not to mention the Tianqing School's outer sect, which was led by Merrill to form an intelligence department. The members were all top spies, secret agents, and computer hackers from all over the world. Even the low-level intelligence personnel were extremely terrifying. The global Hong sect, the Japanese Sakura Society, the Russian Tomahawk, the Italian Mafia. In addition, the military intelligence agencies of various countries also had in-depth cooperation with the Tianqing School. It could be said that they were pervasive. According to the previous investigation, Zhang Qianlei lost contact with Jiang Tian on the way to the Sword Tomb Island, and the last place he appeared was in Italy. So, after Jiang Tian killed the Donald family members and supported John Donald to become the new leader of the party, he asked him to investigate. But after that, there was no news. After all, Zhang Qianlei had the demeanor of an expert. His whereabouts were mysterious and he was elusive. On the phone, the current leader of the Italian Mafia, John's voice came. "Mr. Jiang, we have found the witnesses and surveillance video of Zhang Qianlei's last disappearance. It was an old Daoist priest from Wuxia who was eating and chatting with him in a small tavern. According to the surveillance video at that time, the old Daoist priest claimed to be from the Imperial Thunder sect in the Qia world. He had supreme thunder techniques and wanted to take Master Qianlei, who had a thunder spirit root, as his disciple. So he took him away." Qia world? Jiang Tian was slightly stunned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Qia was one of the two fourth-level dimensional worlds on par with Tianqing and Kanglin. It was governed by the third-level dimensional world of the Dragon Gate. Jiang Tian had also heard about the Imperial Thunder sect in the Qia world from many powerhouses in the Star world. It was said that there was a golden core powerhouse in charge. Their thunder techniques were unparalleled, and ordinary Foundation establishment powerhouses could kill a golden core powerhouse. To Zhang Qianlei, who specialized in lightning arts, this was naturally a fatal temptation. However, Zhang Qianlei made an appointment with him to go to Sword Tomb Island at that time, but he left without saying goodbye and didn't call to contact him. Perhaps, Zhang Qianlei was coerced. "If they dare to hurt Zhang Qianlei, I'll skin them alive." Jiang Tian was very worried. On the other side, when John Donald heard this, he said in a strange voice, "The surveillance showed that before Zhang Qianlei left, he said that he would master the supreme thunder technique and beat Mr. Jiang. He didn't dare to continue." Jiang Tian's face darkened and he said, "There's no harm in speaking the truth." John did not dare to hide the truth. He coughed and said weakly, "He said he wants to beat Mr. Jiang until he calls him Big Brother. He wants to wash away the shame of losing to you in the Yanjing battle." He also instructed the expert from the Imperial Thunder sect not to accept Kong Teichu as a disciple. He said that Kong Teichu's innate ability was too poor, his conduct was too low, and he would easily betray his master and ancestors, take liberties with decent women, and bully underage girls. "Fuck you, Zhang Qianlei." Jiang Tian's furrowed brows relaxed, but he was so angry that his nose was crooked. "Good for you, Zhang Qianlei. I didn't see you alive or dead. I was so anxious that I couldn't eat or sleep well. In order to find you, I mobilized hundreds of thousands of people and spent countless intelligence resources. I even got people to greet Interpol, MI6, and the FBI. In the end, it turned out that you were accepted as a disciple by an expert from the Chia dimensional world. It turned out that you wanted to secretly learn the cultivation technique and come back to defeat me and make me call you Big Brother. You were afraid that I would surpass you, so you belittled me behind my back. Shameless. Despicable. Disgusting. Wait until I complete the great cause of spirit chi recovery and settle down, Qing. I'll go to the Chia dimensional world and beat you up. I'll teach you a lesson. Jiang Tian gritted his teeth and said angrily. Jiang Tian didn't know about the teleportation array that led directly to the Chia dimensional world on Earth, but there was one in the stellar sky domain. Beside him, Tang Linglong asked worriedly, Master, is Master Qianlei all right? This old man is very bad. Jiang Tian put down the satellite phone and sneered. You're still worried about him? He's living a good life. I can't wait for him to be bullied to death by the people of the Chia dimensional world. It's best if he's crippled and can't take care of himself for the rest of his life. Tang Linglong was confused. Didn't Master like Master Qianlei the most? Why was he so angry now? Let's go to West Earth. Jiang Tian said impatiently. Master, I want to go too. Tang Linglong hurriedly pleaded. You're going? Jiang Tian frowned. Although Master's cultivation can withstand the thunder, lightning, and fire that can forcefully break open the spatial door, your cultivation is too low. You'll inevitably be injured. My cultivation is too low, yes. I'm indeed not as high as Huang Linger. Tang Linglong had a personality that refused to admit defeat. In terms of cultivation, contribution to the sect, combat, and many other aspects, she was secretly competing with Huang Linger and the other girls. How could she tolerate this? That's right, my cultivation is low. You've already brought Sister Ling there once. Why aren't you tutoring me? Tang Linglong pulled Jiang Tian's arm and begged coquettishly. Her watery eyes were about to cry. If he didn't agree, she would cry in front of him. Jiang Tian was the most annoyed by this. He immediately had a headache and hurriedly said, All right, sorry. I promise you. Thank you, Master. I knew that Master dotes on me the most. Tang Linglong's tears came quickly and left even faster. She immediately broke into a smile. However, there are very few people in Wuxia in West Earth. Most of them are ancient Indians, and the common language is Sanskrit. I'll teach you now. Jiang Tian said. Sanskrit? Everyone was surprised. Sanskrit was originally a very difficult language to control. Would it be too late to make a last-minute effort? Everyone was still worried. Suddenly, they realized that there was an additional message in their minds. It was as if a chip had been implanted, and this chip contained the most comprehensive Sanskrit and Chinese dictionary. With a thought, the corresponding Sanskrit pronunciation and characters would immediately appear. Daoist Taichu's mental divine ability is really powerful. The martial demon lady was dumbfounded. She couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Her charming face was filled with shock. It's just a small technique. It's not worth mentioning. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. His gaze swept across the ruins of Death Hill. He quickly used algebra and the study of formations to calculate in his mind. He muttered, Now, I'm going to activate this teleportation formation. Under the ruins of Death Hill, there's obviously a formation foundation. It's not an ordinary city. It's just that it's very obscure and profound. It's different from Huaxia's formation. It can't be activated casually. Li Wuji solemnly scanned the ruins of Death Hill. The Kunlun sect was originally a dimensional world. It wasn't on Mount Kunlun in the mortal world, but in the sky above it. It was isolated by the ancient formation of the yin and yang microdust. Li Wuji's seniority was very high. He had a long lifespan and was regarded as the leader of many Taoist sections. He had seen countless formations and his eyes were sharp. He was about to warn Li Mu. The lightning teleportation formation on Death Hill could only be activated once every few decades or centuries. Jiang Tian had to be careful. If he used brute force to forcefully break it open, it might cause a disaster like the Death Hill explosion in history. However, Jiang Tian casually cast a spell and shouted, "Open!" Boom. Deep under the Death Hill, there seemed to be a huge ritual that was operating, letting out a thunderous roar. The ground shook violently as if there was a huge earth dragon rolling. Dust flew everywhere and basketball-sized rocks were scattered all over the ground. Those tanks and fighter jets that were abandoned a few days ago actually floated up, completely defying the laws of physics. All of a sudden, countless bolts of lightning surged from the ground and from the clouds, forming a giant lightning portal with a radius of a few hundred meters in the sky. There were bright lights deep inside the portal, and there were tiny bolts of lightning flashing like silver snakes. But they could vaguely see the world on the other side of the portal. There were mountains, cities, palaces, clouds, and even people that were as small as ants. My words are the law. Golden words are spoken from my mouth. How can there be such a terrifying divine power in this world? Li Wuji was shocked. Yi Karen was dumbfounded. Her pretty face was filled with shock. He's really a godlike man. Lady Wu's eyes were filled with splendor. Her chest heaved up and down and her face flushed. She only hated that Jiang Tian married too early and that she was an old-fashioned guy who didn't know how to flirt. Otherwise, she would have swung her hoe and tried to steal from Zhao Xueqing. I'm afraid that even the yin and yang microdust formation of Kunlun won't be able to resist it. Li Wuji mumbled to himself. This Death Hill array was definitely a perfected deity array. It could gather lightning energy, control the dimension, and shorten the distance. There were also many restrictions. Even nascent soul overlords would have to be careful when facing it since it wasn't made by them. However, Jiang Tian was able to forcefully activate the formation on the Death Hill with just a finger seal and a low roar. This wasn't only because Jiang Tian was powerful, but also because he had reached an unimaginable level in array formation. Thunder, come! Jiang Tian's purple eyes spun and expanded. Lightning flashed and purple bolts of lightning shot out. At the same time, he flicked his fingers and drew talismans in the air. In just a few seconds, a giant cocoon condensed from purple lightning enveloped them like a space capsule. Impressive! Immortal Master Jiang is really good at everything. The martial demon lady was shocked, her mind was shaken. Yi Karen also widened her eyes and exclaimed in her mind. Jiang Tian's power was unfathomable. Jiang Tian's thunder cocoon only flashed slightly and was quite stable. It wouldn't spread to their bodies at all. One had to know. Lightning was the most violent and unstable energy in the world and was extremely difficult to control. And yet, it was controlled by Jiang Tian like an obedient kitten. Go! Jiang Tian's face didn't change. He let out a light shout and made another hand sign on the inner wall of the lightning cocoon. Immediately, the purple thunder cocoon moved on its own and shot into the Thunder Gate, flying towards the West Earth dimension. Chapter 1087. Everyone could only hear the crackling sounds of explosions coming from the outside, as if sparks were being emitted. It should be the electrical energy from the positive and negative poles of the cocoon and the Death Hill Thunder and Lightning Gate constantly neutralizing each other, engulfing and entangling each other. As the electric energy was neutralized, the cocoon-shaped cabin was filled with a pungent smell of ozone and shook violently. Sometimes, there were electric bolts as thick as an arm penetrating the cocoon cabin and hitting everyone. Even an immortal state overlord wouldn't be able to withstand such electric bolts. Fortunately, the cultivation of everyone in the cabin was not bad. Moreover, Jiang Tian did not release the purple lightning to intercept it, so it was more frightening than dangerous. The purple lightning cocoon was also very thin from time to time. They could even see the twisted space and electric bolts outside. But every time it was about to be exhausted, Jiang Tian would use a thunder art to repair it with purple lightning. The lightning cocoon had never been broken before. Everyone felt that the time taken to travel through the space channel lasted for about half an hour. Suddenly, the electric bolts outside disappeared. Jiang Tian revealed a faint smile. With a "chila" sound, he tore open the lightning cocoon and stepped out. Everyone looked down. The cocoon floated several hundred meters in the air. Below its feet was a mountain range that rose and fell like a giant dragon. They had arrived at West Earth. Jiang Tian raised his head and looked. He saw the sun that was the same size as Earth and knew that this folded space wasn't far from Earth. In the forest, there were mountains thousands of feet high. Wolves, insects, tigers, and leopards were everywhere. Giant trees covered the sky and vines as thick as thighs wound around the trees like dragons. There were also unknown wild flowers swaying gently. It was full of primitive and barbaric aura. What rich spirit qi! Tang Linglong closed her eyes and looked intoxicated. She stretched her arms and let out a cheer. Then, she jumped down and landed on the ground. Yi Karen was also shocked. Strictly speaking, the Kunlun sect also belonged to a dimension world, but it was only dozens of kilometers wide and couldn't be compared with the vastness of this place. More importantly, the spirit qi was rich. The spirit qi here was at least dozens of times richer than that of Earth and several times richer than that of the Kunlun sect. Jiang Tian and the others also landed on the ground. Suddenly, the sound of fighting could be heard from afar. Yi Karen had already sensed it. His expression changed as he frowned and said, "There are people fighting 20 miles to the west. What does that have to do with us?" Jiang Tian's face was cold and indifferent. "We're here just to get rid of our old enemies, the Golden Rock Temple and the Changsheng sect, and to get what we want." Li Wuji nodded slightly in agreement. "We'd better make some friends so that they can be our guides," Yi Karen suggested. Jiang Tian was non-committal. In the end, he smiled and said, "That's true. You're all injured. We're not in a hurry." At this moment, the sounds of fighting were getting closer and closer. Over 30 men and women were chasing after a young girl who looked to be around 13 or 14 years old. There were more than 30 men and women of different ages. The oldest was a burly man in his 40s, and the youngest looked to be in his 20s. Some of them were riding on spirit beasts such as falcons, some were stepping on flying carpets, and some were riding on artifacts. Fireballs, thunderbolts, wind blades, and arrows kept shooting at the adorable young girl. The one in the lead was a young girl with a very ugly appearance. She was around 20 years old and her face was covered in earthworm-like scars. However, her figure was very hot. She had curves in the front and back and a slender waist. She wore a gauze dress and her magic treasure was a string of metal bracelets on her arm. This woman's attacks were ruthless and merciless. Every time she shook her arms, dozens of bracelets would fly out and become bigger with the wind, smashing boulders and breaking trees. When they hit the little girl's body, she would be sent flying into the air and scream. The other was a handsome young man in his 20s. He was wearing silver armor and a silver helmet. He held a silver spear in his hand and seemed to be a soldier. He was supporting her attacks and driving the running girl into her attack range. First-level Foundation Establishment Realm. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes. If this girl was in the Stellar Sky domain, she would be an elite disciple of a large sect. However, she could be seen everywhere in the outskirts of West Earth. It was indeed West Earth. Before this, Jiang Tian had learned about it in the Stellar Sky domain. West Earth did not belong to the fragments of the ancient Wuxia. It also did not belong to the ruins of Immortality system. It was self-contained and independent. If it had to be categorized into the dimensional world formed by the ruins of Immortality and the ancient Wuxia, it would probably have to be a second-class dimensional world. The girl who was being chased was wearing a red gauze dress that was torn by the branches. A string of white jade beads hung in front of her chest. The little girl looked cute and youthful. However, at this moment, her face was covered in dirt and tears. Her beautiful eyes were filled with fear. A pair of snow-white, petite, and bare feet stepped on the mountain rocks and brambles, moving up and down as she ran. Her 3 braids were dragged straight in the air. As she ran, she begged with tears in her eyes. "Why are you bullying a little girl like me? I didn't provoke you." The ugly girl with the earthworm face attacked again. The silver bracelet flew out and hit her until she was rolling on the ground and vomiting blood. Seeing this, Lady Wu could not take it anymore. Her face was filled with anger. She shook her two sabers and said coldly, "How can this group of people bully the weak with their numbers?" She was about to attack the group of pursuers. Yi Karen's sword aura exploded and was about to help. Wait. Jiang Tian raised his hand to stop her. He suppressed her sword aura so that she could not move at all. But Yi Karen was stunned. Then she became angry and said angrily, "Isn't it the responsibility of cultivators like us to help the weak and uphold justice? Could it be that immortal Master Jiang was injured in the heavenly state and could not defeat them? Or are you afraid of them and do not dare to wage war on West Earth?" At this moment, she was very disappointed and despised Jiang Tian. To think that Jiang Tian dominated Earth and was known to be undefeated in 10,000 battles. He was not afraid of the gods and Buddhas. Today, he did not dare to help a little girl who was being bullied like this. At this moment, she was even suspicious. Was the rumors true that Jiang Tian had already taken down the two worlds of Tianxing and Heavenly State? Perhaps he was just bragging and bluffing? After all, no one had seen it with their own eyes. Li Wuji's face was as calm as still water. He said calmly, "Karen, don't act on your own. What does their life and death have to do with us?" Could it be that Kang Teichu is really afraid? Lady Wu was also confused and doubtful. But after all, she had experienced the battle at the Lansang River. At that time, she also thought that the Tianqing school and Jiang Tian did not dare to fight and could not defeat the Holy See and Brahmin. But in fact, Jiang Tian and the others only lured the enemy in and finally killed the invading army of 3,000 with the Kuelian. Therefore, thinking of the past, she did not doubt Jiang Tian. She only asked, "Immortal Master Jiang, why didn't we help?" But he was clearly afraid. What kind of master is he? Tianqing school is not the #1 orthodoxy. Ridiculous. Yi Karen glared fiercely at Jiang Tian. She was inexplicably sad and indignant, and the corners of her mouth curved into a disdainful smile. Tang Linglong was already unhappy with Yi Karen. Now that she heard her disrespect her master, she was even angrier. How could she stand it? She said coldly, "When my master was fighting the Holy See and Brahmin, where were you? Who didn't dare to fight? Who was the one who turned the tide? Who didn't care about the life and death of the Wuxia cultivation world and didn't care about it?" Her words were obviously scolding the Kunlun sect. In fact, when the Holy See invaded, Yi Zhantian had represented the Long Formation and Wuxia cultivation world to contact the Kunlun sect and ask for help. However, the Kunlun sect was very arrogant. They claimed that they were people who stayed away from the secular world and would only help when the world was destroyed. They politely refused. This was also one of the reasons why many people still regarded the Tianqing school as the #1 orthodoxy in Wuxia and suppressed and belittled the Kunlun sect even though it was located overseas. Tang Linglong, how dare you insult the Kunlun sect? Yi Karen was so angry that her whole body trembled. Karen, listen to what fellow Taoist Tai Chu has to say. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu has his reasons for doing things. Li Wuji glared at her. Reasons? I'd like to see what reasons he has. Yi Karen was angry, but she didn't dare to speak anymore. Does the weak have to be kind? Jiang Tian was so broad-minded that he didn't argue with Yi Karen. He just smiled and asked slowly, does the weak occupy justice and morality? If that's the case, the more righteous one is, the weaker one is. In the human civilization and the entire universe, the more despicable and evil one is, the stronger one is, right? Then, wouldn't this world be doomed? Well, Yi Karen was stunned. Jiang Tian put his hands behind his back. A gentle breeze blew his waterfall-like hair, and he said with the demeanor of an expert, most of the time, the weak are the evil ones. Because usually, evil can't prevail over good. Are you saying that the little girl who's being chased is a bad person? Lady Wu was puzzled. She frowned and asked, but she looks so young and weak. The world of West Earth is full of strange things. Let's just watch the show. Maybe the next plot will be very shocking. Jiang Tian's face was calm and relaxed, but there was a trace of vicissitude in the depths of his eyes. It's not that easy to distinguish between good and evil. Sometimes, everyone has their own opinions and acts from their own point of view. There are so many wars and battles, from small fights on the streets to big fights for hegemony between countries, and even the rise and fall of civilizations. In the end, it's just a struggle for survival. The weak are prey to the strong. It's just for a bite to eat and a place to live. Jiang Tian had already seen through it, but he was too lazy to explain. Martial Demon Yang carefully looked at the little girl who was running away and suddenly realized something. The little girl looked weak, but she ran very fast. Her speed was almost comparable to the sound barrier. Wherever she passed, the branches and leaves in her way would explode, forming a green smoke. And every time she was hit and sent flying, she would immediately get up. There were no broken bones. She could withstand the attack of a Foundation establishment cultivator. She was clearly a strong person. The little girl ran very fast. In just a few minutes, she had crossed more than 10 miles of forest and arrived in front of Jiang Tian. She hugged Jiang Tian and rubbed her full chest against Jiang Tian's arm. She hurriedly said, "Little brother, you're so handsome and heroic. You must be a hero. You won't leave me in the lurch, right?" Chapter 1088. At this moment, the girl with the earthworm-like scars on her face also came over with her men and shouted, "Fellow Daoist, be careful. This demonic woman is called Wu Gong. She is a demonic cultivator with extraordinary cultivation. Quickly push her away." Wu Gonger looked at the girl with the earthworm-like face in disdain and shouted, "Red Butterfly, you are the demonic woman." She sat down on a huge rock beside Jiang Tian, swinging her pair of delicate and beautiful feet. The golden bells on her ankles were jingling. She said in a sad and sorrowful tone, "Hero, I want you to know that this demonic woman and I came from the same village. Red Butterfly and I were childhood friends. However, she was ugly and jealous of my beauty, so she made up lies and called me a demon. She wanted to kill me. Hero young man, please save me." The man in silver armor looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and shook his head helplessly. These people are obviously not cultivators. Their consciousness is not strong enough. I am afraid they will be bewitched by the demonic woman. I am afraid they will be bewitched. Red Butterfly is also very worried. She whispered to the man in silver armor, "Brother Xiu Zhu, let's split up. I'll save the stranger, and you take them to attack Wu Gong. We have to cut them open." The others were hesitant and unwilling. Once the battle started, it would be a fierce battle to the death. However, they still had to take care of a few ordinary people. They would be restrained and would not be able to fight at their best. Xiu Zhu was also unwilling, but in the end he nodded lazily. Originally, he was too lazy to help a few ordinary people who were as weak as ants. However, Red Butterfly was the daughter of the city lord. His father obeyed her orders. He could not ignore her orders. "What do I get for saving you?" As expected, Jiang Tian did not seem to hear their persuasion. He lowered his head and smiled at Wu Gonger. "Of course there are benefits." Wu Gonger was stunned. She smiled sweetly as if the fear just now did not exist. "What benefits? Tell me." Jiang Tian smiled. "If you save me, I know some embarrassing things that only boys and girls do. Let's do it together." The girl once again crawled in front of Jiang Tian and hugged Jiang Tian's arm. Her eyes were like flowing water, her mouth was like orchids, and her snow-white teeth bit her captivating lower lip as she giggled. Her voice was soft and charming. Just a moment ago, it was as pure as water, but now it was charming and seductive. Jiang Tian pushed her away and sneered. "I'm sorry, I already have a wife, and I'm already very old. I don't like doing this kind of thing." Yi Karen frowned. Although this girl called Wu Gong was a bit frivolous and unrestrained, she was still a weak little girl. How could Jiang Tun be so heartless? "How dare you push me when I'm so beautiful?" Yi Karen was about to lend a helping hand. All of a sudden, a thunderous roar came from the cute and delicate chest. The sound wave was so strong that Yi Karen and Lady Wu were both sent flying, and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Wu Gong'er's lovely little face suddenly changed, becoming hideous and ugly in an instant. Her body was like a huge balloon that was rapidly expanding and elongating. Her entire body emitted strange chi-chi sounds. Bone spikes pierced through her clothes and pierced into the mountain rocks, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Her body became long and large, and she was actually a huge centipede made of muscles and bones. Bone armor bulged high on her upper body, causing her body to bend. Her arms made of bones opened up, and her fingers were sharp as claws. Bone spikes that were curved like steel whips grew out from the back of her head. The jade prayer beads in front of her chest expanded and turned into human skulls that hung around her neck. Her face was filled with wrinkles, and her muscles were knotted together. It was indescribably terrifying. Her pupils were pitch black and cold. An extremely sharp voice came out of her mouth, like the screams of countless women mixed together. She said sternly, "It's just eating a few people. Why do you want to kill me?" I once listened to the scriptures of the Changsheng sect's leader. Even the beast-controlling sect treats me as a consecrator and doesn't dare to underestimate me. You dare to kill me? Seeing this scene, Yi Karen and Lady Wu both realized what was going on, and they instantly broke out in cold sweat. It turned out that this little girl was a shape-shifted monster. There's no reason. Red Butterfly's eyes were cold and she said coldly, "It's just that you're eating people around Maolin City. I can't just watch you eat them. I'm hungry." Wu Gong roared, causing the trees to shake violently and leaves rustled down. Hungry? You're eating cows, horses, and animals. So, we've been feeding you cows and sheep every day, haven't we? You also promised that you wouldn't cause trouble. Red Butterfly gave Jiang Tian a look and had Jiang Tian step back, while she slowly approached Wu Gong. However, Jiang Tian didn't seem to see her look. He stood motionless and looked at her with a smile on his face. It was as if the monster in front of him was not a monster that ate people without spitting out their bones, but a small earthworm. Hurry up and leave. Don't delay us from killing this monster. Seeing this, Red Butterfly urged in a low voice. She couldn't help but be disappointed with Jiang Tian. He was smart to push the demoness away. Why was he confused again? He obviously didn't have any cultivation, but he was still trying to be brave. Or was he scared out of his wits? The young man named Xiao Zhu looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and sneered, "Trash, mortal! Why are you still here? Are you waiting for death?" Wu Gong was calm and unruffled. She didn't provoke Jiang Tian first. Anyway, in her opinion, Jiang Tian was just an ordinary person who couldn't run away at all. On the other hand, Red Butterfly and the others had cultivation. Not only were they delicious, but they were also very nutritious. They would definitely eat them first. Cows, horses, and animals are not delicious. The taste is not good, and the essence is too lacking. Man is the spirit of all things. Saliva flowed out of Wu Gong'er's mouth like a stream. She laughed sinisterly. "Red Butterfly, you wretched girl. Do you think I ran here because I'm afraid of you? Do you think my strength is as simple as you think? What do you mean?" At this moment, Red Butterfly was shocked. Originally, killing the centipede spirit Wu Gong was a large-scale military operation for the entire Maolin City. Her father, Governor Mao Baohu, led the garrison army and many experts from small sections. A total of thousands of people participated in the operation. However, Wu Gong seemed to be defeated from the beginning. She retreated as she fought. She ran to the top of the Golden Lotus platform and retreated into the depths of the mountain. Wu Gong was eager to kill the enemy. She ignored her father's warning and led a small team into the depths of the mountain alone to chase after the enemy. At this moment, she suddenly realized that she seemed to have underestimated the enemy. If Wu Gong was really so weak, how could she wreak havoc in the vicinity of Maolin City for hundreds of years without anyone being able to kill her? "Red Butterfly, little cutie, I will eat them and then capture you. Your father, the governor, will obediently give people to me to eat every day." Wu Gong'er laughed strangely. She suddenly burst into the air like a giant python. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she rushed towards Mao Hongdai. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Mao Hongdia's face turned cold. She raised her hands and the silver bracelets rose into the air and whizzed towards Wu Gong. Xiao Zhu held a silver spear and soared into the air. The spear was like an angry dragon as it pierced towards Wu Gonger's back. The others also made their moves. Fireballs, arrows, flying hammers, flying knives, wind blades, rolling logs, they rained down on Wu Gong, like raindrops. Pa pa pa. Wu Gonger's countless claws swung back and forth. In an instant, Mao Hongdia's silver bracelets were smashed into pieces. Wu Gong soared into the air and her sharp bone hook flashed with cold light as she pounced towards Mao Hongdai. Kill her. Quickly save the young miss. Those fireballs and other magical weapons were shot over. Wu Gong did not even dodge. She allowed them to hit her body. She was actually safe and sound, without a single injury. Wu Gong, who covered the sky and the sun, pounced over like a mountain. Mao Hongdia's face could not help but change in fright. Beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. Her eyes revealed deep fear and despair, as if she had seen a demon. Chapter 1089. Mao Hongdai often fought with her father. Although she was scared, her reaction wasn't slow. She jumped into the air and dodged the attack. Boom! Where she was originally standing, millstone-sized boulders crumbled one after another. The black poisonous gas that Wu Gong spat out permeated the air and then smelted the shattered rocks. It was extremely corrosive, and if it landed on one's body, they would immediately turn into a pile of withered bones. Mao Hongdai saw this and cold sweat came out like a small stream. She was scared. If she hadn't dodged, she would have been dead. Wu Gong spat out black gas and waved its claws. In an instant, 3 overlords were killed. Die! Fan Xiaozhu, who had missed twice, jumped into the air and stabbed Wu Gong's neck with his silver spear. The long spear, which contained the true essence of a Foundation establishment overlord, stabbed into Wu Gong's neck. Oh no! Everyone else was overjoyed, but Fan Xiaozhu's expression changed drastically, unable to express his bitterness. His long spear was only a few centimeters in. It was stuck in Wu Gong's neck and couldn't be pulled out. How is this possible? I can kill a mid-stage Foundation establishment overlord with my full strength. Why can't I stab it? Just how strong is its cultivation? He was sweating profusely and was dumbstruck. All of a sudden, the 2 whip-like antennae on top of Wu Gong's head let out a strange howl and swept over. Fan Xiaozhu was frightened. He quickly made hand seals and chanted spells. Suddenly, his body shone brightly and 7 or 8 Dharma artifacts appeared. He retreated like a shooting star. But he was still hit by Wu Gong's antennae. Wu Gong's cultivation wasn't as simple as they thought. It had reached the early stage of the Golden Core realm. One attack could destroy mountains and shatter the earth. Fan Xiaozhu screamed and his waist made a cracking sound. His waist and abdomen were about to be crushed. He flew a few hundred meters away like a rag doll and fell on a rock. He screamed and groaned in pain and lost his ability to fight. Fan Xiaozhu. Mao Hongdia's heart trembled. He and Fan Xiaozhu's family had been friends for generations. They had been childhood sweethearts, and they had many common topics to talk about. It was no longer as simple as a guard and a young lady. Sister Red Butterfly, leave quickly. Brother Xiaozhu can't hold on any longer. A cute girl in a green dress pulled Mao Hongdai and said anxiously. In just a few minutes, more than half of the 30 guards had been killed, and even Fan Xiaozhu, who had the highest cultivation among them, was unable to withstand it. If they continued to hold on, only death would await them. When the other guards saw that they were no match for him, they were already terrified and began to flee. Although they were guards, they had not reached the level of loyalty. If the city lord were to blame them, they could just flee. After all, West Earthworld was vast, and they would have ways to survive. Luo Qi, how many mortals are there? A trace of struggle flashed in Mao Hongdia's eyes. As she retreated, she looked at Jiang Tian and the others and shouted, "Idiots! Hurry up and run!" Luo Qi stomped her feet anxiously and shouted, "Sister Red Butterfly, why do you care if they live or die? What do they have to do with us? I've already used up all my fireball charms. Why are you running? Didn't this centipede spirit want to eat me? Then I might as well just kill it." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Facing the overwhelming baleful aura, he walked towards Wu Gong. Mao Hongdai was dumbfounded. Then she stomped her feet angrily and shouted, "You're crazy. You'll die. Young miss, why do you care if they live or die? If you don't leave now, it will be too late." Luo Qi's face turned pale as she screamed in shock. "It's already too late." Suddenly, Mao Hongdai sighed. Her face was filled with despair, and her legs went soft. Wu Gong'er rampaged through the forest, her hundreds of bone-like claws waving in unison, slapping away one guard after another. Even when Lady Wu attacked, she was instantly caught in the bone-like claws. She spat out black gas and soared into the air. In the blink of an eye, she was only a dozen meters away from Mao Hongdai. In her eyes, the black shadow grew larger and larger. Mao Hongdia's eyes were filled with fear and despair. She could already see Wu Gong'er's sinister and smug smile. Luo Qi was so frightened that she burst into tears. Just when everyone was in despair and helplessness, suddenly, a dazzling light gushed out and shot towards Wu Gong'er at lightning speed. Then, the light grew bigger and bigger, like a silver tide. It covered the sky and poured down on Wu Gong. "You're an expert?" Wu Gong'er looked back at Jiang Tian with fear in her eyes. She only had time to let out a scream. Before she could dodge, she was pinned to the ground by hundreds of flying swords. She had no strength to struggle at all. In the blink of an eye, she died an unnatural death. This centipede spirit, which had wreaked havoc on the Golden Lotus platform in Maolin City for hundreds of years and killed dozens of experts as soon as it appeared, was killed by Jiang Tian just like that. The entire area was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. When they saw the flying swords fly into Jiang Tian's heaven-devouring demonic gourd, they realized that Jiang Tian had saved them. "Celestial Master Jiang, thank you for your help." Lady Wu still had lingering fear. She wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and walked up to Jiang Tian with a smile to thank him. "Celestial Master Jiang, I was blind just now. I didn't see Wu Gong'er's true face. I'm sorry." Yi Karen, on the other hand, was so ashamed that her face was red. She walked up to Jiang Tian and apologized solemnly. At this moment, she felt Jiang Tian's monstrous strength. She understood that Jiang Tian's eyes were vicious and not ordinary people could compare with him. Jiang Tian didn't help her because he had already seen Wu Gong'er's true face. If it wasn't for Jiang Tian stopping her, she, Yi Karen, would have already started a battle with Mao Hongdai and the others. Both sides would have suffered heavy injuries, and then she would be eaten by Wu Gong, who would sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. "Don't mention it. We're working together. Do you think I'll just watch you get killed?" Jiang Tian chuckled and didn't take it to heart. Yi Karen was just a junior. Her grandfather was Jiang Tian's disciple. Why would Jiang Tian care about her? How could he just sit by and watch them suffer? Middle stage of foundation establishment? The young men and women of Maolin City, led by Mao Hongdai, looked at Jiang Tian. The disdain and contempt on their faces were replaced by fear and admiration. Wu Gong'er's cultivation was at least at the early stage of foundation establishment, or even higher. Jiang Tian could kill her, so he was at least at the middle stage of foundation establishment. Mao Hongdai was also shocked. She finally understood that Jiang Tian was not stupid or reckless. He was 100% confident. At this moment, she was very surprised. It was very rare for someone to reach the middle stage of foundation establishment at such a young age as Jiang Tian, even in the large sects like the Changxing sect. However, she was the daughter of the city lord after all. She was experienced and knowledgeable. Although she was shocked, she still walked up quickly and bowed graciously. "Mao Hongdai of Maolin City greets you, senior. Thank you for saving our lives." My family and I will repay you greatly." The others also came forward to greet him. They were humble and respectful, but their eyes were full of fear. This was the universal law of the cultivation world. The strong were respected, and the weak were like ants. Even if there was a certain order, the strong were the law. This iron rule was still eternal. In fact, although Jiang Tian searched a lot of memories in Kasyapa Guru's mind, some of the information was not detailed enough, or it was not consistent with reality. Jiang Tian still needed to familiarize himself with the situation, so he nodded and said, "My Taoist name is Star Butcher. I am here with a few friends and disciples. May I know where this place is and who is in charge?" The name, Star Butcher, was the abbreviation of Jiang Tian's infamous Starry Sky Butcher in his previous life. However, Jiang Tian had recently broken through 2 dimensions, swept across the 3 realms, and shocked the universe. He deserved this name. Everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. They thought to themselves, "No wonder their clothes and dressing are so strange. It turns out that they are foreigners." Although Mao Hongdia's appearance was ugly, she treated people very well. She was refined and courteous. She immediately said respectfully, "Master Star Butcher, this is the Golden Lotus Mountain outside Maolin City of the Yunnan country in the north of West Earth. The nearest city, Maolin City, is about 300 miles away. If you don't mind, you can come with me to Maolin City. My family will be very grateful to you." "How far is the famous Changshan sect from here?" Jiang Tian asked with a smile. "Changshan sect?" Mao Hongdia's face was filled with annoyance, fear, and resentment at the mention of this name. She then took a deep breath and said, "The Changshan sect is the 5th sect in West Earth. It dominates the north. The Yunnan country and 3 other countries, 13 big cities, and hundreds of small and medium-sized cities within 1,000 miles of the north are their territory. 1,000 miles to the east, the 10,000-year mountain in the Tianlang country is there." Jiang Tian's eyes were like torches. He immediately sensed Mao Hongdia's complicated attitude towards this sect. This girl is not bad. She knows how to repay kindness and distinguish right from wrong. I'll test her. If she's suitable, I'll let her be my representative here. Jiang Tian thought. Then, Jiang Tian smiled and said, "Okay, we'll go to Maolin City right after we come out of seclusion. Sorry for disturbing you." "Not at all. It's our honor." Mao Hongdai was delighted when she heard that. Her clear eyes shone brightly. This woman acted swiftly and decisively. She immediately ordered everyone to pack up their luggage and split Wugong into pieces. Then, they began their return journey. On the way, he learned from the conversation. West Earth was 10,000 miles wide. Even a Foundation establishment overlord would have to fly for a few days without sleep if he wanted to cross the continent. There were many sects and overlords in West Earth. There were also many cultivation families. But the one with the highest status was the Tathagata of the Golden Rock Temple on Mount Thunder. Even the sect master of the Changshan sect was much weaker than him. He had to be careful with his words and actions and didn't dare to offend him. This Tathagata's cultivation was profound, and his golden body was indestructible. Moreover, he was skilled in the art of controlling thunder. His other divine abilities were also well-versed in all kinds of magic. His power was unparalleled and unfathomable. Tathagata had been in charge of the Golden Rock Temple on Mount Thunder for 500 years. Tathagata? There's a Tathagata in the Golden Rock Temple. When martial demon Lady Karen heard this, her beautiful face turned pale and her mind shook violently. Could it be that the founder of the Buddhist sect on earth, the Supreme Buddha, Shakyamuni, hadn't passed away? Had he come to this world? Chapter 1090. When Jiang Tian heard this, he couldn't help but chuckle as he glanced at the 2 women. Then he used his divine sense to explain. He explained to them, Tathagata is not necessarily Shakyamuni. There is more than one Tathagata. Tathagata is one of the 10 titles of Buddhism. It is also a state and a job. With the way of truth, one can accumulate good karma and become a Buddha. That's why he is called Tathagata. According to the Buddhist scriptures on earth, Shakyamuni is the only Tathagata in the Saha world. But as you can see, the West Earth is a world of its own. The history of Buddhism here is even longer than that of Buddhism on earth. Besides, there are plenty of cultivation resources in this chaotic world. Naturally, other Tathagatas will be born. The woman seemed to understand something and nodded. Jiang Tian didn't want to scare Li Wuji and the others, so he didn't say anything shocking. The Tathagata of the Golden Rock Temple in the West Earth was probably more powerful than the Buddha Lord on earth. According to Mao Hongdia's introduction, there were no United States. There was no unified country here. Instead, there were many countries and sections. The situation was complicated. It was more like an alliance system with the Golden Rock Temple on Thunder Mountain as the main body, the other cultivation sects as branches, and the states, cities, and families as branches and leaves. Here, the cultivation sects had already surpassed the imperial power of the secular world. Take the northern region, where Jiang Tian was now, for example. There were 4 countries, 13 cities, 32 medium-sized cities like Maolin City, and many small cities, villages, and towns. The population was more than 100 million. There were also a dozen small sects, but they were all vassals of the Changshan sect. They didn't dare to act rashly. In the vast northern region, from the king of a country to the city lords, they were all conferred titles and obeyed the orders of the Changshan denomination. They also had to pay annual tributes. If one wanted to join the major sects, he or she must first believe in the Changshan sect and pay annual tributes. Only then could he or she be assessed by the major sections. Or they could complete the many missions of the longevity sect and serve it, such as gathering, hunting, enforcing the law, farming, hunting, killing, and so on. Only then could they obtain merit points, rewarded cultivation methods, or the opportunity to join the sect. As for them, they were all from the cultivation families of Maolin City. The Mao family, the Fan family, the Luo family, and so on all had a foundation establishment powerhouse in charge. They were full of talents. They had originally followed their families to hunt down Wugong, so they were only part of the reserve forces. Who would have thought that they would fall for Wugong's trap? It's probably because they've just taken over someone's body and haven't recovered to their peak strength yet. Jiang Tian gave a possible explanation. Damn it. This guy really misled me. Li Wuji's hair stood on end and he began to think of retreating. He complained, I thought he could be the guardian elder at the Foundation establishment realm. The Changshan sect only has 1 or 2 golden core cultivators at most. Then we can still try. But no. Tai Chu, let's go back. Go back? We can't go back. At least, we can't go back through the teleportation array on the Golden Lotus platform. This is a one-way teleportation array. The corners of Jiang Tian's mouth curled up into a smile as he transmitted his divine sense. A one-way teleportation array. Tai Chu, didn't you notice before you came? You're too reckless. Li Wuji howled and complained. He only felt that the West world was extremely dangerous and he couldn't move an inch. Immortal Master Xing Tu, you're an itinerant cultivator. Why don't you work in the city patrol as a teacher-in-chief? You'll have tens of thousands of soldiers under your command. My father loves talents. He won't hesitate to hire beautiful women and crystals. The next day, Fan Xiuzhu had recovered after using a lot of spirit pills. After knowing that Jiang Tian didn't belong to any sect or family, he became even more enthusiastic. This person adhered to the attitude of the strong being respected. He didn't even look at Jiang Tian because he thought he was an ordinary person. After Jiang Tian showed his strength, he was extremely respectful. He talked a lot and promised a lot of benefits. He had changed from arrogance to deference, but he was courteous and did not give people the feeling of hypocrisy. He was worthy of being a seasoned veteran. Jiang Tian smiled but didn't say anything, declining to comment. It wasn't just him. The disciples of the other cultivation clans all threw out olive branches to Jiang Tian one after another, offering generous conditions, status, beautiful women, cultivation techniques, great medicine, and crystals. They promised great benefits and guided him patiently and systematically. Immortal Master Xing too, if you come to the Luo family, will definitely worship you like a god. I'm not married and don't have any brothers. We're all sisters. My father has always wanted to find a strong man to marry into our family. The pretty girl named Luo Qi was even more flirtatious and begged softly. She seemed to have the intention of selling her body. This scene shocked Madame Wu Yaonong and Yi Karen. Tang Linglong, on the other hand, had a face full of pride as she stood behind Jiang Tian, humming a little tune. However, she didn't forget to glare at Luo Qi and secretly scold her. You're so cheap. In the eyes of the overlords on Earth, Heavenly Kingdom, Star World, and West Earth were all places where the deities lived. The overlords there were like real gods. They were superior and unshakable. Provoking them was like courting death. But as soon as Jiang Tian came here, he only needed to make a move once, and he immediately gained a group of admirers who favored him greatly. Fan Xiuzhu, don't be so shameless. In the end, Mao Hongdai shouted loudly. Immortal Master Xing too is a distinguished guest of our family. If he were to stay here, he would be our guest. How could it be your turn? As soon as she said that, everyone was speechless. Although their families were not bad, their status was not as high as the daughter of the city lord. I guess you can't refuse the great temptation of joining the Changshan sect. Fan Xiuzhu was the only one in the crowd who didn't say anything, but he smiled confidently. Fan Xiuzhu's aunt, Fan Luomei, was known as Fairy Luomei. She represented the Changshan sect in the Yunnan country and was a true disciple of the inner sect. She had the opportunity to talk directly to the higher-ups of the Changshan sect. He promised Jiang Tian. As long as Jiang Tian worked as a teacher for the city guards for 3 years, he would be recommended by Fan Luomei and have the opportunity to join the Changshan sect. In his opinion, even if Jiang Tian was an expert in the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm, he was an individual cultivator after all. He had no roots and no foundation. What he lacked the most was a backer. After walking for a while, Mao Hongdai suddenly asked, Immortal Master Xing too seems to use a flying sword. Are you from the Yan Huang tribe? As soon as she said that, everyone suddenly thought of this, and their faces instantly went pale as they looked at Jiang Tian with surprise and caution. Yan Huang tribe. Luo Qi's face turned pale. She even took a few steps back and distanced herself from Jiang Tian. She avoided Jiang Tian like a snake. It seemed that Jiang Tian was scarier than Wu Gong, or disgusting. Chapter 1091. Yan Huang Tribe. Jiang Tian was taken aback. When the so-called Battle of the Fallen Immortals broke out, the multidimensional worlds were formed. Most of the experts of Wuxia entered the ruins of immortality and other multidimensional worlds. Mao Hongdai explained. But the territory of Gu Tianzhu was already inhabited by experts of Wuxia. They were also brought to this world, and were collectively known as the Yan Huang tribe. Flying sword arts were their forte. Oh, so that's how it is. Sensing the caution in the eyes of the crowd, Jiang Tian clasped his hands behind his back and said confidently, That's right, I am a descendant of Yan Huang. Jiang Tian had always thought that the traditional culture of Wuxia was extensive and profound. Even in the world of immortals, many of the elite cultivation techniques were similar to the traditional Wuxia scriptures. Jiang Tian also thought that the Wuxia people were the most outstanding people, not only on Earth, but even in the universe. Even in the depths of the universe, many humans had yellow skin, black hair, and black eyes. They were very similar to the Wuxia people in terms of body structure and bloodline. Therefore, no matter what these people thought of the Yan Huang tribe, even if it was a mountain of knives and a sea of fire, Jiang Tian would not deny it. Just like a tree that grew to 10,000 zhang and covered the sky, one could not forget that it was the roots, the earth beneath one's feet that gave him nourishment and strength. However, Jiang Tian's words caused everyone's eyes to turn cold. There was disgust, sympathy, and disdain. It was like a white person looking at a black person, or a city person looking at a country bumpkin. No, It was more like a righteous person looking at a criminal suspect. Even Fan Xiuzhu, who had been warm to Jiang Tian, looked at Jiang Tian coldly. Luo Qi's face was full of disdain. She kept a distance from Jiang Tian, ignoring Jiang Tian. The Yanhuang tribe is so disliked by you? Seeing this, Li Wuji and the others looked at each other. Jiang Tian's face was as still as water as he asked mildly. Fan Xiuzhu looked embarrassed. He coughed and explained. Senior Xingtu, you might not know this, but this area originally belonged to the ancient Indians. The Yanhuang tribe is an outsider, and they do not believe in the longevity sect, nor do they worship the Buddhist sects Tathagata. Therefore, they have always been disliked, and can only survive in the cracks. He let out a bitter laugh and said, but recently, an overlord of the Changshan sect, Luo Ming, set foot on earth. However, he was killed by the Tianqing school, which was led by the Yanhuang people on earth. He even infuriated the longevity sect and killed all the Yanhuang tribe members in the kingdom of heaven. Right now, countless villages and towns of the Yanhuang tribe have been destroyed. Tens of thousands of Yanhuang tribe members have lost their lives and become homeless. Li Wuji's face was as calm as still water when he heard this. Yi Karen and Lady Wu both looked angry. Tang Linglong directly sneered, how can the Changshan sect be so capable? If they are so capable, why don't they fight their way to earth? Mao Hongdia's face was gloomy. She sneered and said disdainfully, that Changshan sect, bullies the weak and fears the strong. Of course we will, but we won't be in a hurry. Fan Xiuzhu smiled awkwardly and said, the dragon-taming Arhat from Thunder Mountain came back injured. He said that although the cultivation level of the people on Earth is low, they are good at strange and dirty tricks. They have created a cannon that can shoot lightning and kill Jindan cultivators. The Changshan sect does not dare to go there rashly. Now they are recruiting, collecting natural treasures, and forging protective immortal treasures. Seeing Jiang Tian's unhappy face, Fan Xiuzhu seemed to be afraid of Jiang Tian's power. He quickly smiled and said, however, an overlord who has reached the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm like Senior Xingtu is an amazing person wherever he goes. Once his cultivation level is high, there will be people who want to recruit him. He will not be short of money. However, Senior, it is better not to mention the identity of the Yanhuang tribe member. It will only invite trouble. He confided in her, the storm will pass. When the time comes, Senior Xingtu will have the opportunity to join a large sect and climb to the peak of cultivation. Jiang Tian smiled calmly and did not comment. Although this person despised the Yanhuang tribe in his bones, this view was deeply ingrained in the hearts of any Indian tribe member. At least he was polite to Jiang Tian. It was out of kindness, so Jiang Tian could not be angry at him. Seeing that the crowd ignored Jiang Tian, Mao Hongdai scanned the crowd and sneered. Let's not talk about other things. Senior Xingtu is our savior. Everyone should know how to repay his kindness. Keep your mouth shut. Don't talk nonsense outside and cause trouble for Senior Xingtu's day. If I find out that you are spreading rumors, don't blame me for being ruthless. I don't care and can't care about what you do. But the Mao family will treat Senior Xingtu as an important guest and protect him. At this moment, Jiang Tian had a better impression of this girl. She knew how to repay kindness and was responsible. Not bad. Hearing this, although the crowd felt that Mao Hongdia's action was inappropriate, they did not dare to persuade her. They all nodded in agreement. Jiang Tian was about to ask about the Changshan sect's pursuit of the Yanhuang tribe when suddenly, a dazzling rainbow pierced through the sky. The people from the family are here. Luo Qi immediately jumped up and cheered. The major cultivation families of Maolin City had extraordinary auras. In the sky, hundreds of white luans, falcons, and immortal cranes with 100-meter-long wings covered the sky. On the ground, thousands of flood horses and elephant cavalry charged through the mountains and rivers. The white luans and the warriors on the cavalry had distinct armor and shiny swords and halberds. Almost all of them were in the middle or later stage of the Qi refinement realm. There were also many cultivators, dressed differently and with different temperaments. They came on strange flying immortal treasures. There was no lack of foundation establishment experts. The leader was a burly man with a full beard. He was burly and had the strength of a middle foundation establishment cultivator. He jumped down from a flying chariot and walked over with a majestic gait. "Father!" Mao Hongdai immediately went up to him and whispered a few words. Mao Hongdia's father looked at Jiang Tian with a strange glint in his eyes. He quickly walked over and thanked him with cupped fists. "Daoist Xingtu, I'm Mao Bohu. I heard that you saved my daughter. I'm very grateful. I've prepared some wine in my house. Please come." At this time, Mao Hongdai stepped forward and said softly, "Father, please send everyone away. Immortal Master Xingtu is from the Yan Huang tribe." Mao Bohu's face froze, but he immediately calmed down and ordered calmly. "Immortal Master Xingtu is an otherworldly expert. He doesn't like to be disturbed. You guys, carry the corpse of the centipede spirit back to the city first." "Yes." Many family leaders, cultivators, generals, and soldiers responded. They took the corpse of the centipede spirit from Mao Hongdai and the others and left quickly. The other disciples rescued by Jiang Tian bowed to Jiang Tian, found their parents, and left in a hurry. Luo Qi did not even look at Jiang Tian and turned to leave. Fan Xiuzhu wanted to say something but stopped. In the end, he sighed regretfully and left Jiang Tian and Mao Hongdai. After everyone left, "Descend the White Luan carriage." Mao Bohu shouted to the White Luan in the air. The carriage on the back of the White Luan was engraved with restrictive patterns that could block the spiritual power of a Jindan cultivator. The person driving the carriage was a young man in black armor. He was extraordinary and had a fierce aura. He was already at the late Qi refinement realm. If he were on Earth, he could control a country or a sect. The young man descended the White Luan carriage and walked over with majestic steps. He bowed respectfully and said, "City Lord Miss, please get on the carriage." "Immortal Master Xingtu, this is the guard captain of the City Lord residence, Mao Shi. He's an outstanding disciple of the same tribe." Mao Bohu introduced. "Mao Shi, this is Immortal Master Xingtu. He's the savior of Red Butterfly and the others. He's at the Foundation Establishment realm and a hero. You'll be in charge of his daily life these days. Don't be negligent." "He's a Foundation Establishment realm expert? He's a liar." Mao Shi looked at Jiang Tian with disdain. He was suspicious. Jiang Tian did not have any aura that an expert should have. He was ordinary. The key was that he was from the Yan Huang tribe. One had to know that the Yan Huang tribe did not have any decent sections. They only had a few small mortal cities and scattered villages. They were not powerful at all. In the West Earth world, the Yan Huang tribe did not have any decent experts. Their fates were miserable. They were chased and trampled on like ants. This guy was blowing his own trumpet. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.